All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fights. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going over each and every fight from UFC Fight Night, Medic versus Rodriguez, taking a look at and giving our predictions for the upcoming UFC Fight Night. Gamrot versus Salkilld. To do all of that with me, as always, you know him, you love him. He's the man, myth, and legend. He's the Ohio player. If you mess with him, he will knock you out quicker than half of the finishes in Belgrade. Mr. Chase Parton, how are you, brother?
I am doing very, very good, of course. I am here. It is Monday night. We have fights to talk about from Saturday. And, it was definitely an exciting time. So I'm very excited to be here. Thank you, Thinker.
Absolutely. Lots of great stuff to talk about. A lot of quick stuff to talk about as well, of course. A lot of quick fights on that card. And of course, we'll get into all of the upcoming fights. I don't want to bring the mood down too tremendously at the start of this thing, but I do think that it is very important that we acknowledge some very unfortunate news that just came out a couple of hours ago. Alan Nascimento, a fighter that you're probably familiar with. You've probably seen him fight a number of times on UFC cards. Tragically and very suddenly passed away, it seems. It sounds like he had a massive heart attack. Young guy. Details a little bit, sparse right now. We don't know the entire story of it, but I think that, I speak on behalf of myself and the entire fan community when I say that this is really tragic, and rest in peace to Alan Nascimento.
No, absolutely. I was at work and I'm not gonna act like I was the biggest fan of him. All respect to him as a martial artist, but I was at work and I saw this, I saw the post, of course, and it definitely was shocking. Like it was somebody, the other sports that have a long history of athletes or whatever, they pass to old age. Some things like that are a lot more peaceful than others, but in this sport I feel like this is the first time that I'm not going to say I feel like it is the first time I've experienced like knowing somebody that was in the cage and they've unfortunately passed away. So it is something I'm going to remember. It is unfortunate, I'll tell you that. I don't even know how, like, it hit really hard randomly, and that's just unfortunate, man.
Yeah, no, same. I mean, it's just one of those things that really shocks you, especially given his age. And also, it's like you said. I mean, I wouldn't class myself as the hugest fan on planet Earth or anything like that, but you never heard a bad word about him. He's not one of those people that was out there, kind of making a fool of himself or making himself or the sport look bad. I mean, Charles Oliveira released a nice statement. They were training partners, and I haven't heard, from anybody at any time anything negative about Alan Nascimento. So yeah, it is something that comes out of left field and really, puts things into perspective. So rest in peace, Alan Nascimento, and best wishes to his family, of course.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I actually like the thing you said, not a bad word said, I mean, that is something to be said in this sport. So, shout out. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
Much respect. Much respect. I didn't want to, bring up that I wasn't a fan for any, negative reason. I just appreciate him for all the work that he did in the cage. Um, Good stuff, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he will be missed by this sport, of course. So that being said, what else? Let's bring it back into a more positive light here. So this past week, aside from the UFC, I watched PFL. That was not the greatest experience, but of course this was the one of the last cards, at least. I think they've got, two more under the PFL banner, and then that is switching over to MVP under this new management structure where John Martin, who is the PFL president, will still retain that title. He will stay on with Jake Paul and Nikisha, the two dudes at MVP who are already there, and they're going to join forces and create this MVP MMA venture. What do you think about this, Chase?
Well, one thing I will say about that specifically is that if you want our opinion on this MVP PFL merger, we did a free for all episode last Thursday and we went in depth a little bit on that topic. But what I will say is that I'm excited to see what it is going forward. As we saw the first PFL card, obviously it has nothing to do with the MVP yet, but this is all eyes were on the PFL because, oh, this is the MVP talent now. Let's see what they got. And And we had some people show out, and some did not show out as much as others. What would you like to say about Miss Dakota Ditchova before we move on?
I mean, nothing really more to be said than what we have already been saying for a while now. What I would say is, in relation to the MVP merger, it is going to be interesting to see if they actually, advance her in a more meaningful way now, because she has been sort of, I don't really even know what you would class it as. She's like, they're giving her favorable matchups to keep her unbeaten record, is what it seems like, at least. That's fan perspective and speculation, perhaps, but that would seem to be what it is. She's not a champion there. Why has she not fought for a belt? Is that part of that? Who knows? But you would think that as one of their biggest stars, if not their biggest star right now, perhaps, that they would be advancing and using her in a more meaningful way. So that would be interesting when it comes to her. Of course, Usman Nurmagomedov got a win there, and he is now a free agent. So there's been some discussion as to whether he's going to go to the UFC or not. Things like that are somewhat interesting, of course. Time will tell how all of this ends up playing out.
I actually like this question from Sam. Actually, real quick, let's go ahead and shout out the chat because I'm going to give Sam a big shout out. But so Beeb, my Lambstone, and Sam, of course. So Sam, when PFL come to Netflix because MVP was on it, I will say that is potentially a possibility in the future. But you have to remember PFL just signed that deal to Vice, so MVP they own Vice right now for some reason, so they're going to be on Vice for a little bit, and after that it's really a who knows, because they're going to have to look really good on paper for Netflix to be like, all right, MVP's still good to go. After that, we had our one event, it did good, we sold them off, whatever you want to say, but I don't know if it's going to be around too, because the MVP event was not structured to be like a part two, it was just
Right.
it was like a spectacle kind of card. If they take on like they already have the WWE, which is like their secession kind of athletic show, like I don't see them, having a PFL on there. It's just
What I would say is that there is a possibility, only if they want to become bigger players in the sports space in general. If they have a grander ambition, they do have that Tutum service, which I guess is sports related. So I don't know if that's part of it, but if they're trying to become players in the sports space in general, in a broader sense, then maybe it makes sense to build out a sports roster and have an MMA promotion that is part of that. And if that's the case, then PFL would slot in there. They've already got the boxing with MVP. There might be a path forward with that.
the only thing that I can think left to say about that is you pronounced it Tudum. I think it's maybe Tudum, like it's like the
Oh,
sound, Come on,
yeah,
guys, get with the
yeah.
thinker.
I had heard that was the pronunciation. I am willfully not doing that. So
Oh,
you're not going to get me to play your game, Netflix. You spell it one way, I'm pronouncing it one way. Either way, though, interesting times over there with the PFL. Just wanted to mention that because that was from last week. Also, I watched Island Fights, which is a local promotion to Florida. And it was not taking place in Florida. The event that I was watching, it was in Mississippi in Biloxi. But it was a great card. A lot of good finishes on there. So happy to promote and shout out the local regional promotion Island Fights here on the show.
what I will say to Island Fights is they should have, thought ahead of time on the name, because you just went to Mississippi. Were they on an island in
They,
Mississippi?
they very very infrequently are ever actually taking place on islands. It would seem, yes.
Did they ever? Was that the
Florida Keys, perhaps. Maybe they had a show in the
okay?
Keys at some point. I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know where the name exactly came from, because Florida's very much not an island.
Yeah, correct. I do know that it is attached to the rest of the continent. Yes, but
They should be peninsula fights. Yeah, exactly.
absolutely. Speaking of another non-island, at least for as far as my knowledge, do we want to talk about this card coming? Like this card right now that we're about to talk about? Do we want to talk about Serbia? It's not an island, right?
Sure, it is not an island. That is
There you go.
absolutely true. And there was a fight night there, so sure, let's talk about it. Why not? It was UFC Fight Night, Medic versus Rodriguez. It took place in Belgrade Arena, which is in Belgrade, Serbia. Chase, what'd you think about this thing on paper?
On paper, I mean, it just made me question, and I'm gonna obviously reiterate this probably a couple different times. When you see a card like this and you see how many fights were thrown together, kind of just last minute, you wonder why there's a roster of people who are signed when you're just gonna sign everybody from the region on a week's notice.
Yeah.
Like, and now they're signed for 3 more fights. When are they going to fight again? Because you're not going to sign the people. You're going to sign the Brazilian who's off the street next week. So it's stressful because there are plenty of people who we want to see fight who need to be fighting, and maybe they're other things, but there should not be 9 people debuting on any card. Let me just say that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, especially when we have like a defined path to entry for the UFC, of course, is you make a good point with that. Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely talk about one specific one, which the backstory was, he was on vacation. They gave him the call up, and it's like, where are you mean to tell me there was no one else in the division that could have taken that spot, even on short notice? Strange.
Yeah, well, listen, and we'll obviously look ahead at next week, but when you see the names on next week, it's like, I mean, are we getting slim pickings right now? Because I know the roster full of people that I could rattle off a couple of names, and it's like, where are they at right now, kind of deal. And so when you see this card, I mean, obviously on paper you expected better than what the Abu Dhabi card, is that where we just
Yeah.
were?
Oh yeah.
You expect better. You expect better on paper because this is like a striker's paradise kind of region. It's like these guys don't wrestle, they strike. And we got a couple Polish people, and we got more of the brawlers of like the other regions. The Brazilians, the Russians, the Americans. Like, these guys aren't wrestlers. Like, you don't see any wrestlers when you look at the thing versus Abu Dhabi, which you look at it and it's like, okay, there's a bunch of decisions coming. So on paper, this was fine. I just didn't like seeing so many people off the street. So
Yeah, I think that for me, I do like, even with the circumstances that as you outline them, which are very valid points, I agree with them. I still do like seeing debuting fighters because often that level of hunger or level of recklessness can lead to interesting fight conclusions and seeing more exciting fights at times, I would say. So I think that on paper I was pretty excited about some of these, even if it was a lot of debuting people. But there were a lot of changes to the card, and that's another thing I did want to mention before we start going into our reviews, is that there are a couple that we did not do predictions for because either the opponent got changed or it was added late or whatever the circumstances were. A whole lot of switching around going on this card. So a couple of them we didn't have predictions for from the last episode.
and I'll be real, if I'm giving the UFC any leeway, and I think I need to, is because the way that this sport works is there's short windows when you can get in and you can get out. So telling somebody that if they're to be on the card, the first card in Serbia, which in retrospect, when you look back, like, you got to think like these cards in these new regions are kind of thrown together like in within a year, so you just got to be ready and on the fly. So to tell a fighter who is wanting to be on the Serbian card, who is Serbian, hey, you got to wait till contender series. Like, it does, because like you make a good point. I want to see people debut, but like, people debut from the contender series off of Tough all the time, but it's just not enough, really. So you make a great point, and I do want to see people debut in front of the bright lights, in front of their home country and stuff like that. But 9 just seems like, why do we have a roster? That's all that it seems like. It just seems egregious. 4 people, and we already had 3 people that were already signed from Serbia. They could have been signed 4 months ago for all I know. But like, that finding out that the fight was thrown together on 2 weeks and it's just 2 people that they found, it's like, ah, gosh, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a preview for the upcoming contender series. I guess that's it's contender series light.
Absolutely.
Well, that all being said, then why don't you shout out the chat one more time here,
Yeah.
Jason? I'm gonna get this thing started.
Yo, you want me to do it? Oh, I
Yeah,
thought you
you
were
go
going to
ahead.
get it this time. Okay, okay. Hydra, of course. Thank you for stopping by. I think, Sam was here earlier. Who else do we miss? Oh, God, my Lambstone, Bleeding Edge, Hydra again, Tyler Betts, Toby, of course, and then Garda. Nice. Okay, Toby, appreciate you for stopping by, brother. Hopefully you get some sleep soon. I know it's late for you guys.
Absolutely. Appreciate all you guys. Thank you for hanging out with us on a Monday night. All right, starting this card off here, Chase. First fight of the evening was Marina Spasic versus Stephanie Luciano.
Shout out, Beeb. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Shout out, Beeb. Come on, man. OG. But yes, Marina Spasic versus Stephanie Luciano. This is another one that kind of came together a little bit later on, a little last minute. We had talked a little off stream about this one, and Yeah, I think that your thought process, at least what you had mentioned to me, was pretty on point. Stephanie Luciano looking pretty good once this went to the ground.
Yeah, this one's actually one of a few cases where we have to give the caveat that unfortunately ESPN was not updated for some reason when we did the show. So there's like three fights that we didn't even talk about one. We'll talk about that later that we didn't even have an official pick for really. So this one, we came off air and I just said the names to Thinker and he picked one. I want to give Thinker the benefit of the doubt that he didn't remember how much I liked Stephanie Luciano because she one listen, when it came to this fight, I will give Marina Spasic, what was it?
I think it's Spasic, but it's the regional pronunciation. So you got to give us a little bit of leeway here with some of the ways that these letters are sounding out because they're spelled one way, they're pronounced another way.
Absolutely. So I want to give her credit because she did look like a quality striker. I mean, to start off the card, I was like, "Oh yeah, Serbian got strikers. Like cool. This looks the part so far." So she was looking good. Stephanie really was looking lost, and the striking, she was kind of just relaxing, settling in. The shots weren't like, crushing her. She was getting hit and she had to just like reset. Nothing too crazy, but she wasn't able to get anything off while SpaceX, jab was just annihilating her. But and this is the craziest part about Stephanie Luciano, and I think this is her biggest advantage, right? And I think this is where SpaceX got messed up. When you look at the tail of the tape and you see it line up, you see Stephanie Luciano and you look at SpaceX and you're like, oh, okay, two white ladies. She's Brazilian. Guys, she is Brazilian. I think Spacek also made this mistake. She didn't, I don't think you would never know until you heard her speak and you see her get a finish and she starts roaring at the crowd. She is Brazilian, guys. She has probably a black belt. She's probably had it for 90 years, So I figured as soon as I remembered that, because I forget again. So once the fight was going to get to the ground, I knew it was over, but I did not expect her to just not have anything in the striking, which it did not look great, and it did not look promising. But again, she's Brazilian, and then she just takes her down and chokes her out. It was just that easy. Like it actually,
Yeah.
it was as quick as I just said it right there. That's exactly how quick it was. It was a very impressive takedown, but well, impressive takedown sequence, I will say, because she got straight to the back and got the choke, but it really just did not look like Spacek had ever competed in MMA. I don't know. She looked like a kickboxer, maybe, and like this was the first time she ever been taken down because it was easy and she got choked instantly. I don't know.
Yeah, no. Well, so two things. Just to start this off, why I went the way that I went on the pick with Marina Spasic is I did know that Luciano was a Brazilian. However, I was confusing her with a different Brazilian. I was confusing her with Carnalosi. That's
Oh,
why yes, that was my mistake. Now, of course, we were just
oof.
talking this through in real time, quick conversation. We didn't go into any in-depth research about this. This was just a, kind of a standard conversation. And we sort of just came to the conclusion we came to, but that was on me for that mistake. The other element of this is, as you had talked through, Spasic looked good on the feet, but it was exactly what you said at the end there. She quite clearly does not have an MMA base. I would say maybe a kickboxing base is what it looked like for her. As soon as this thing went to the ground, it was very clear that she had no ability to defend herself on the ground. Because yeah, it was an easy double leg. The RNC was even easier than that. I mean, she didn't protect her neck in the slightest in any kind of capacity. So once the arm was underneath already, it was just there was nowhere to go. It was quite instant that was going to be the case. On the feet, she was having this success, and I think that Luciano needed to like settle in a little bit to get her own success because she started connecting a little bit as the round progressed, but then of course once it went to the ground, completely over. And it shows the levels to MMA. I mean, if you want to be a kickboxer exclusively, you go into kickboxing. If you want to be an MMA, you got to have the entire package.
I really liked how this set the tone for the night. Not just Stephanie with an emphatic victory. Obviously her celebration was pretty funny to see her just go crazy, but the crowd was, and this is again, you talk about some arenas, some regions, they have just their own environment. It's not even like the air was sucked out of the room every time there was a finish on their person. It didn't feel like that. It was just like a they just like sat. They were just like stopped caring. They were just like, oh shit.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, this crowd was very interesting in that regard. I thought because it was like electric for the Serbian fighters and the regional fighters, and any time that it was first, they were very vocal against everyone else that was not from the region. So I personally don't really like that. I think that being a little bit more respectful is the way that I would prefer crowds to be. But whatever, people have different opinions about that part. But it was definitely noticeable what you're talking about, where it's like the finish happens. If it is not a person of the region, it just becomes like, yeah, we're just chatting, we're
Yep.
talking to each other, looking around, checking our phones. It's like, yeah, they just dead stop. They just took like everything to a dead halt.
Yeah, and fair play to them. You said that they were, against all the opposing people. I actually really didn't get that vibe. I really didn't get that at
They
all.
were booing pretty vocally.
I mean, I don't actually don't remember them booing that much, because the fights weren't even that long, I don't even think they had time to boo. I heard them cheering for their people really, really loud. Like they were loud for their people, and then the fight was over. That's what I kind of remember from it. I don't remember too often that they were booing the opposing people, but maybe you can remind me here in a few. But this fight, I think, started off the night very, very well, or the morning. Sorry, this started off the
True.
morning, and it was just a great performance from Stephanie. I mean, it was. Listen, she's a young prospect, and obviously she needs a little more crafting before she can go up. Obviously, we saw with the striking, she just needs a little more going on. So her getting somebody on the debut like this, her being the one to have that opportunity, I don't, I don't hate it, because she needs opportunities. She's 8-2, just stay active and get a fight where you can. You're not fighting for a belt anytime soon. So I don't hate this. I'm glad it was her to get this opportunity because I think she made a big name for herself. Hey, the Serbian fighters are going to remember she choked out Spacek like in 2 seconds flat. So
Yeah, yeah, and she's real young still too, so this is all like still early career stuff for her. So they're trying to build her up probably as
yeah.
well. Whether you like that part of it or not, with the nature of it coming together on short notice and all of that part. Unfortunate for Spasic, she's a higher level coming into this fight, but it does look good for Luciano to get the record up a little bit.
No, okay. It was the walkouts that they booed mainly.
Yeah. Oh
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
Absolutely.
gotcha.
That's what I was
Okay,
gonna
I that
say.
okay,
Yeah.
that's clicking. Okay, I'm thinking inside the cage. I don't remember too much of them booing the fighters themselves. When they were
No.
having
Yeah.
success, but or when
It
they
was
won. But
It was walkouts and then during the announcements as well was where it was very prevalent. That's to me where it's like like the announcements was what it bothered me the most because it's like the walkout, get it out during the walkout, but when it's like the person's getting their name announced and it's like supposed to be like, this like moment for them. I mean, I don't know. It's just have a little bit more class, I guess is what I would say, but I do understand the different regions of it look at it differently and people look at it differently than me, so that's fine.
yeah, hell yeah. No,
But
this was a great performance from Stephanie. I'm really happy she got this done. Hopefully she's able to come back very, very quick. I don't know what it is. This is the second time. Maybe she always just looks like she has a black eye or something. I don't know. Like I think she came in with a shiner, or maybe she's just got bags under her eyes like me. I don't know,
yeah,
so
just the dark eyes. I've noticed that on a couple of fighters over time. Like you see, like it looks like they might have that like black eye, but I think it's just the kind of darker sunken eye kind of thing.
yeah, but what I will say about Spacek is she could come back, and I think I'd be interested to see how she does. She was very technical. That jab was good. Not a lot of girls are going to eat that for 3 rounds or whatever. She'll be able to line something up.
Oh yeah, well, and also the other thing I didn't mention, but I thought was really good from her was that at the start of the fight, she marched right up to her, sprang forward, striking. So it's like she does not have any fear in her heart when it comes to getting up in a chick's face and throwing punches. So really, she just needs to develop a ground game. I mean, this is MMA 101 kind of stuff. But if she's a kickboxer by nature, then that's just an element of the game that you need to develop 2-3 years in Dagestan kind of thing. I mean, like go find a gym that is applicable to fostering those skills and helping you improve the ones that you already have, developing the new ones kind of thing, and she should be fine.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I think she is if she gets some wrestling, if she actually gets on it, because I think her striking is sufficient. So
Yeah.
go ahead, get some wrestling, at least get training on it, try to get some grappling in there, of course. Now that you realize that you're, 7-2, she was probably facing a lot of regional comp. Now you've seen, oh shit, this is what a Brazilian can do. What what I think an American can do. You know, like who knows? You know, so it was maybe an eye opener, but it was on short notice, or maybe she didn't think too much of it. I probably wouldn't. You know, you went out there, you saved the card, whatever you want to believe. You had a good time, and people are going to remember you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, just work on I mean, now you know exactly what you need to improve, so work on that, and at the very least, protect your neck when when you're going down to the ground, and that's the starting point at least.
Absolutely.
All right, good deal there. Good way to start this thing off, and it continues to get good. I mean, this, like I said, a lot of quick finishes on this thing, so we're moving into the next one quickly here. Jovan Leka, he fought Alexander Popik. This was a fine win for Leka, I thought, but Popik is a light heavyweight who was literally vacationing on a beach in Greece a week before this fight. This was a bit of a gimme.
You know, I didn't hear that portion of the story, but I did hear that he was a light heavyweight. And then on top of him stepping up, you know, it's not like it's not like he's a light heavyweight who cuts a lot. You know, it seems there was a 50-pound difference here, you know. So whether or not it ended like this, it probably wasn't going to end the way that anybody was, expecting otherwise, the Serbian fans, you know. And this is where you really heard the crowd roar. Like when they were doing the Leka chant, like that was pretty hard. But one thing I will say is this dude may deserve the apex because, so hear me out. He was in front of his fans and they were going crazy and he was doing nothing. Leka did nothing, brother. Like holy shit. And to be fair, that is, I'll give Popik a lot of. I actually really think I'm excited to see this dude if he gets another opportunity. I think his style is really, really good for light heavyweight. Listen. Remember the Paulo Costa. If you can feint off the back foot and keep moving, Chelsea Chandler did the same thing. You know, it's key. I think this Popik dude will be really good at light heavyweight if he's actually against somebody that is his size. You know, I don't think he probably should have folded to the first body kick. I'm just, you know, we've seen people get kicked in the body before. It happens. It was straight on the liver from a dude who was 50 pounds heavier than him. So I mean, fair play. It was a great shot for the only shot. You know, that dude didn't throw nothing up until this point. I thought Popik, he danced. You know, there was a few moments where he was dancing. He jumped in with a lot of confidence. He just didn't land clean, so he jumped back out, and he was a little worried about the power, and rightfully so. Again, there was such a size disparity, which is just okay in heavyweight. Like that's just how it's supposed to be. You know, the cap is 250, 205 to fucking 265, whatever. So he gets kicked once in the liver and he goes down. I don't take much away from him. I really think I'm excited to see him again. I want to give him, the story's not over, man. You can't go out like that. You got to give him another opportunity for stepping in like this.
Well, I mean, you know, he's beach bod equals soft belly. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm saying. This is an unfortunate thing for Popik. I mean, what we always say, the call comes through, you answer the call, you take the fight. Has to happen. So he did the right thing there. But to think that in a week's time he was going to be ready to take that type of a kick and just eat it and go on is like, I think it's a little bit of an ask. I mean, as you said, 50 extra pounds and the thing hit like a firecracker. They played the replay of the sound of it, and I mean, it resonated through the building. So,
Yeah.
you know, it was a heavy kick. It was like, to say that you think that there's more for him, I think is a little bit generous, because like you were saying, both guys kind of weren't doing much for most of this until that kick landed. Popik was circling the outside of the cage a lot, so I think the Paulo Costa comparison does ring kind of true. It reminded me of Costa versus Strickland, a lot of outside circling. Didn't seem like he really wanted to engage in a meaningful way in this fight, except for a couple of, you know, in and outs there, whatever. And Leka, like you said, just kind of staying in this. You have orbiting. You have one in the
Yeah.
center. He's staying patient, you know, letting Popik kind of bounce around. He found the kick and cracked it. So I mean, it was kind of another quick one. It's unfortunate that Popik had to have these set of circumstances be his return here, because I know that Leka got the win on the Contender Series. That apparently was not, you know, it wasn't a great one.
It wasn't good.
Yeah, and then I believe that they were saying, I think Popik might have been also on a season of the Contender Series too. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I thought I had heard that he had some kind of something in the UFC at some
Oh
point.
wow, holy shit! And he lost to Jamal Hill in 2019 on Contender
That
Series.
there you have it. Exactly. There you go. Yes, I knew that I had heard something like that. So yeah. So, you know, it's like this is an unfortunate way for him to be brought back in just to lose again. So I hope I think that I have to coin another one of my little sayings here, Chase. I call it oh gosh, now I'm the Australian dude that got cut that used
Colby.
to lose. No, not thickness. The Malarkey, Jamie Malarkey.
Oh,
I call it Jamie Malarkey syndrome over here. It's where a guy goes in there with face first into a loss. You got to give him better. That's how I feel about that. So Popick, give this guy another shot with the, at light heavyweight with a full camp. You got to give him a little bit more. I think that, Malarkey unfortunately ended, like you couldn't give him X number of chances thereafter or whatever. But like for him, Malarkey was always a dude that ran face first into these terribly hard matchups, and he ended up losing a lot of them. And I was saying at the end of his career, like you got to give him Anshul Jubli, you got to give him something, to let him have a win after all of these terrible losses. Popick, I think you give him a full camp, you let him try again.
dude, you absolutely do. Because get this, think about this right now.
Yeah.
He has two KOs in his career. He's only been KO'd twice in his career. Once was Jamal Hill in the Contender Series. Okay, that's a champion. Now
Mm-hmm.
you have Leka, and we'll talk about that. But all the size disparity and all these other things that go inside to this loss. That's a different thing. He's only been submitted twice. One of them was Dusko Todorovic. So he's losing to UFC level comp. I think it is reasonably so to say that he could compete at least with a lower level light heavyweight if you give him an opportunity and a full camp. Leka, what I need to say, what this is important. They always talk about, you ever heard of like the biggest what ifs or whatever?
Oh yeah.
Generally speaking, I would say it's not always like the greatest what if stories. It's the ones with the most hype. I think the Serbian people are gonna think Leka is the next guy up because they forget how boring he was on the Contender Series. And then they're gonna just kind of forget that he did nothing in this up until he landed just one sweet kick. It is a great story. He lands the kick, the one shot, he's the young guy in Serbia, it's his card. But let's be real, he didn't make it on Contender Series. He went out and he won his, things. Then he gets on the Serbian card, gets a hammy fucking opponent, and then he gets this crazy first round finish, in his hometown or whatever you want to say. So going forward, I think there's a lot of expectations for a guy that now they think he's some first round killer. He's some first round beast after he just went to a 3-round decision with a slob like just 2 fights ago. So I feel bad for Leka because he seems like a nice guy, but when the crowd was on him, he did not seem like he was ready to put on for him. Like they was roaring and he was doing a whole lot of, like I don't know,
Yeah.
crazy.
Oh yeah. That reminds me of when Moon Gafarov, I think it was against Rinya Nakamura, I believe, when like, he had this like performance that was great, but Nakamura wasn't doing anything. And it was like, it gives you the impression that this is a better fighter than it actually is. That might ring true here. So yeah, we're gonna need to see more out of Leka. I guess that's the ultimate takeaway here. Yeah, fine win, nice kick knockout. You love to see that. Liver kick knockout is always impressive, but don't put all of your chips in the Leka bag, when it comes to the next fight, depending on who the opponent is. Like that's going to be key, is like who he's fighting. Because to think he would be able to replicate that against an opponent on a full camp, maybe a little bit of a higher level opponent, etc. Like you got to look at the circumstances that went into this fight to fully judge it. So when you see him on, your potential bet slips going forward, just remember this fight being what it was and why it went this way.
The last thing that I'll say before we move on is, and this is a hot take, maybe. I think it'll be easier for Popick to exceed expectations at this point. People are like, yeah, this dude's not even getting another chance. He might get a chance, and he potentially could even win. The expectations that are on Leka at this point, he's 24 years old in heavyweight. He's got to be that guy. And if he falls short of anything, it's going to be hard for him. So I think he's going to be the first Serbian, UFC champ, whatever the case may be. Like that's what they're praying for him. Popic, on the other hand, no expectations is a really good thing for him. And I would really like to believe that he can come out here and get a sneaky little dub next time. So hold me to that, guys.
Yeah, and light heavyweight is a division that, I've put a short just recently out about that, saying how, light heavyweight is needing an overhaul. It's getting an overhaul. We're getting a couple of new fresh faces in that division. He could certainly be somebody who, if he starts racking up some wins, could potentially be on that wave. So he's in a good division, I guess, is my point for, coming back, reestablishing yourself, and then maybe raising the ladder thereafter.
No, absolutely. I think Brenton Ribeiro needs an opponent.
There you have it. Maybe that's the next matchup to happen. But the next matchup on this card was Nina Milosevic versus Haley Cowan. Starting this thing off, Milosevic looked locked the fuck in coming into this fight. I don't know if you saw how intense her face was on the walk, but I said Queen Beast indeed. I like the nickname.
No, nickname is all right, but I like, listen, her fighting style was what really is actually, that's what matters. First off, let's get this thing straight. She is 9-1. Her only loss was her first fight by split decision. She was on a 9 fight win streak ever since. That is key to know. She is not just, oh, she won 4, lost to somebody good, and then had to climb back up. No, she is very, very good. The first person that she lost to almost beat, whatever you want to say. She is a slick striker. I mean, I'll tell you who she reminds me of here in just a few once we get to her post fight stuff. But she is one, not only just an effective striker, she's a technical striker as well. But she has power, and she didn't even have to showcase it. She didn't even have to really like drop her. She played the long game. And you've seen body shots that rip, right, where they drop a hook straight to the, no, none of that. She squared up and just punched her straight in the middle of her chest. And you know what happened? You could hear like the thudding. Like she actually was cracking her to the stomach. Like I was sitting here thinking, I'm like, damn, she's really punching her right in the stomach. Like no way that's gonna finish her though. Like we've seen people take shots. They always talk about the liver, but like you very seldom see just the straight to the stomach, like just right in the kisser, whatever. Not the kisser, that's the mouth. Whatever the button is, I don't know,
The,
on the
the bread
belly, but
basket.
the bread basket. There you. No, I think that's more of the tummy. There's a better one out there, but either way, she was she was thudding on body shots, and she wasn't really even trying. Like she looked like she was just out there having fun, which she was. But Haley Cowan, whew, this was just a hard performance to watch because I find it. There was one moment which was really funny. They're standing there, and she like tries to reach out and like grab her, and the coach goes, "Don't grab, don't grab, don't grab," and she's like, "Oh, okay," and like she goes back normal, and then like I was like, "Oh God, this is not going to go well." But she gets hit in the stomach a few times, and like you can kind of see a reaction. But I'm like, yeah, no way she's getting finished with a shot like that. You're really gonna have to rip her. She's a tough girl. Come on, Haley Cowan. What'd they say? She's a former gymnastics, or I don't know, something like that.
They were saying, I think they were talking about Milosevic being a former accountant.
No, I think they said Cowan was a former gymnast or something. But
Could be.
either way, I had remember her being somewhat tough, So for her to just not take a huge body strike and fall, it was definitely not what I wanted to see. But listen, Nina, I'm telling you that power she has, it not only made Haley Cowan. She didn't just drop her hands and fall, bro. She put her hands on her knees like she needed to take a gasp, So it was very impressive, this performance. What would you have to say?
Oh yeah, no, I thought that this was excellent. I mean, the fight starts and Milosevic is just pressuring instantly. Also, similar to the previous Serbian girl. I mean, she's like I guess these Serbian women just go out there with no fear in their hearts, which I appreciate tremendously. But so yeah, Haley is kind of bouncing around, but she's always backing up. Like the only time that Cowan was having really any kind of success in her striking was in the first round when she was pressuring forward, when she was actually trying to advance herself. Milosevic did a great job of not letting her feel comfortable to do that with all of the striking that she was doing. And it was just a consistent chipping away at the body over time, multiple kicks and hand strikes to the body. A lot of singles, though. I mean, like I would have liked to maybe see a little bit more combination work over time, and maybe eventually in the fight it would have happened if it had gotten there. But the interesting thing with this one was shout out to our good friends over at the 10-7. Dino Bam Bam was in the chat for this one, and he had said he's like, Cowan's hurt to the body. And there was that one moment earlier on where she did kind of like, grab her side. But I was like, okay, is like you talking about the posture there, and like, and I thought Cowan did have a better poker face. Like after that, it was a little quick moment, but she went back to it. Either Milosevic just recognized that or just stuck to the game plan. Whatever the answer to that is doesn't matter because the game plan worked either way. It was enough pressure on the body and just enough damage to the body that it really ended up being the difference maker. And Cowan on the other side of that, like she does have tells, which I was kind of referencing back in the previous fight with Regina Taryn when she got kneed in the face, like she had been kind of she shows her reactions, and that was something that I think I had said on that episode as well. So it's like I don't know if that's just like I agree she's not tough, but I just think that it's like sometimes it's inadvertent. You know what I mean? I don't think that she's like really can control it in those moments, and that ends up being a little bit more apparent. The body language not great. So either you're getting hurt and you're reacting to that, or even if it's not hurting you as bad. It's still bad optics for the judges. Neither of those are great, but obviously here it didn't matter. She ends up getting dropped and goes out with with all the body work, and it was really really impressive. And of course, I guess I should say as well, leading into the end of this, since that is the finish, Cowan has decided to retire from the sport. So
No, yes, she did retire. We found that out on Twitter. I don't know, why she didn't kind of maybe she went back there and they had a little talk, and that was that. But sucks, but it wasn't looking too bright after a performance like this. So all the best to her in her future endeavors. But what I will say about Nina, and this is going into her post fight speech, first off, she spoke English. I was like, oh, I'm fucking here for it. Let's listen up, girl. No, she spoke English, which was awesome. She has a very peppy attitude. She's very like, this is the attitude you want to see for a fighter. Like they are really into this shit. She also does dances, and she kind of reminds me of Valentina Shevchenko. And if you look at the performance that she just had with the finish straight to the body, I think this is what we're gonna get here. This is the new age right here.
I like it. I'm here for it, man. Yeah, the personality was great. She's very very upbeat, very happy, and bright. I would describe it as. It was great. And obviously the crowd very much on her side. She was saying that I guess that she had made history. I guess maybe she was one of the first women to fight in that Belgrade arena. And then she gets a win here too. So I'm on the first UFC card in Belgrade. So this is a great thing. Yeah, nothing but respect for Nina Milosevic here. I think that there's definitely a good future ahead of her. And as far as Cowan goes, you make that decision to stop. I certainly support it. Having seen how things were going for her, if that was the what she decided to do, I think that it comes with a lot of indicators that it was the correct decision. So, you want better for these fighters, of course. And what I said too, I said it's a little unfortunate because she probably could have done better in a different promotion. I think that we were just talking about PFL. There might have been a home for her there. Perhaps we saw a couple of fighters from UFC that go over there, and women specifically as well, do a little bit better, perhaps. But she decided to hard stop it. Follow your gut when it comes to that.
No, absolutely. I think the last thing that I want to bring up before we move on is that this is very good for Nina. I don't know, what because this was one of the shorter thrown together fights. I'm not too sure. If she is in bantamweight and she is sustainable there, that is very, very fun. That would be a very fun person to add to the bantamweight division because, man, it is in need of one personality. Guys, look at the top of it. Oh my gosh. So, first off, I mean, Pena, that's fine, whatever you want to say. But then you had like Vieira, who also retired, or was
She's in
released actually.
PFL now, yeah.
That's right. She was released. Jocelyn, she's not a big talker. Eileen is nowhere to be found, even though she does have a little bit of a personality. So this is great. I really appreciate her coming in here.
Yeah, same point that we make about women's fighters in general. Right now, at this point in history, at least, I mean, for the last couple of years, perhaps, and basically as long as women have been in the UFC, now is the time to get in. You will have success if you can win fights and you have even a passing personality that is fun to listen to and enjoy. You will be very well off in this sport. So get in, get your wins, and just be pleasant on the microphone. There is definitely a place for you in this sport.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that moves us on to the next one. Another quick one. Mateusz Rambecki versus Kyle Prepelic. I know you were not happy about how this one went down, Chase, but sad to say, Prepelic really, I mean, this was a pretty one-sided affair here.
Well, one sided it was, but listen, you said this was a quick one. I mean, it was 4 minutes and 41 seconds, yes, but this felt like an eternity for a guy like me. This was one. It always seems to slip my mind, and I don't know why I do it. When I think of Rebecki, I'm like hard nosed striker, walks you down, takes every shot, never stops. I always never think wrestler. He's good. He's good at wrestling. He's taken down all 9 of his UFC opponents. 10th, here we go. And he actually, listen, Mick Tebek had to struggle with this guy. I don't know how I just forget this. This is a Mick Tebek who was obviously never even supposed to be at that division. So Rebecki, I think one of the more underrated wrestlers in the whole organization right now. I am a true believer now. Anytime I see Rebecki now, he's wrestle brother. Like I don't have anything else for him because he took the life out of me, unfortunately. And I've been a big Rebecki fan. Like this is why sometimes I just make the wrong call, guys, and I should have went with the people that go with your friends. Go
Well,
ahead.
but let me just say, I mean, like what you said before about Rambecki is not untrue too, though, and
True.
that's why I think that there is like I think that he just went through a weird skid where he was kind of like, I don't know, like trying new things, maybe not like staying true to what works for him. Maybe I'm trying to expand a little bit. I don't know exactly why, but he kind of strayed from the path. But like what you said about him being the hard-nosed guy who will walk and take the shots, he is still that guy. He just also happens to have the wrestling as well. So it makes him a pretty dangerous opponent. I mean, depending on where the ceiling is, I guess that's a different part of the equation. But certainly against Kyle Prepelic, it makes him a very dangerous opponent. And, this was like one of the rare fights where we didn't get any blood out of him. But, he is definitely willing to go through at the craziest war you've ever seen if it needs to be that. So just wanted to add that to the thought.
No, you're absolutely okay. This is unfortunate because Kyle Prepelic, I have definitely been saying he makes, before this fight, he was one of the few guys that make the Canadians look good. Like he really kind of impressed me. And when you look down the line, Rebecki had lost the last of his 4 fights where he was the favorite, I believe is what it was, maybe even 5. The last of Prepelic's 5 failed to go to the decision or something like that. I don't remember what it was, but everything led me to think that if anything is possible, Rebecki could get cut and the doctors just call it. I don't know what the case may be. And I will, if I want to give any credit to Kyle Prepelic, and he does not deserve any because he cannot get out of any fucking takedown. One takedown, one of one, and he just did not get up. But he did, he assumed that he was not getting out of where he was, and he tried to throw this one wicked elbow, and it landed, but it did nothing to Rebecki, which was crazy. But like he like went and then he like came back across, and I was like, okay, fair play. If he would have did it right there, fair, but he didn't. And then he got manhandled. And it wasn't even a brutal finish either. It was one of those like big brother finishes, like, I'm not touching you type fucking shit. Like he was just pounding on him, and then it got a little crazy, and then yeah, we had to stop it because Prepelic fucking sucks. So
Well, I mean, he went out like similar to Iwan Kutelaba against Navajo Sterling, is what I thought it looked like to an extent. I mean, granted, I mean, he was getting hit for a lot longer, so not exactly the same, not apples to apples. But like you had said, early takedown for Rambecki was elementary. I mean, this was, it was like Stephanie Luciano, I mean, it just was an easy takedown. And then Rebecki, he is so active on the top. It was solid ground striking from Rambecki throughout the entirety of the rest of the sequence, pretty much. And then there was that one moment there during, a couple of transitional periods, but it was all Rambecki in control throughout all of it. Prepelic tries to get up, and Mateusz has one of his legs locked, and he's kind of sitting on his leg and just continuing to strike him on the, where they're both kind of like on the ground. I was like, that's pretty nice work right there. He's just, it's like position to position. Prepelic just had no answers for any of it. It's like he gets to the next thing, but there's not his time to take over ever. So, Rambecki just continues to pound the side of Prepelic's head until the fight is stopped. That's basically what it ended up being. And, it was just like one long sustained striking sequence from Rambecki on the ground, takedown into nonstop punches, is what I said.
This dude has been on the prelims for like his entire career, and he's one of the best fight. He's one of the more consistent guys. Like, and consistency as in like he's delivering a fight. Like, he is going to put on for wherever he listen, it shows he's on the prelims and he puts on the best fights of the night, basically. Whatever you want to say. This dude gets zero respect. Why does he not? Because he's Polish too. He should get like hella hype.
Because he doesn't win enough. That's where the straying from the path was. It's like it's because like, I agree. He is one of the most exciting, like the most entertaining fighters for sure. Because the guy will go to war with you, and he will bleed like crazy if it is necessary. But that has to also come with winning the fights at some point. You know.
So they always talk about prize fighters, man. They don't have to win every time as long as they're exciting. Why can't Rubetsky just be looped in with like Tommy McMillan and stuff like that? I mean,
Well, because
he's
I
only
think
got 5 losses, guys. Think
it,
about that.
I was going to bring that up too. You are right. It is only 5 losses. I think that the problem becomes he's on the carousel right now. We talk about where like you start advancing a fighter, they get to a certain point, then they lose. It's like, okay, now you have to drop down a little bit again. Then you get another shot to get back to that same point. You lose again. Now you know what I'm saying? Now you're on this cycle here. He needs to break past that cycle and actually rack up a couple of sustained wins in sequence against higher level fighters to ascend to a better standing here. That's really all it comes down to at this point because he has the it factor when it comes to all of the things that we just mentioned. It just needs to be paired with a couple of strung together wins and a name on the other side. Like that's why we talk about the Mictebek fight. Mictebek already kind of had his aura off of various circumstances, fan favorite, etc. So that fight turned out to be one of the fights of the year of that year. I think it was last year, right?
Two
So
years ago, I
2
think,
years.
maybe.
I think 2 years ago, I think is correct. So either way, the point is that like he got a little bit of shine off of that, and people remembered him off of that. But then you don't keep the momentum going thereafter. Like that's what he needs. He needs momentum. It needs to be a couple of fights strung together, wins, create your own name, not going off of the other fighter's name, and then maybe he can graduate onto the main card at some point.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I fuck with Rebechki, man. I appreciate him for being just so low key that he ends up being on the prelims, because when I first started out, I can't afford no pay per views. I would only watch the fight nights and then the prelims because that's what ESPN Plus had. So I got to watch this dude for a while now. Thank you, UFC, for no reason hating on this guy.
Well, and I was going to say too, talking about what we're saying when it comes to him graduating to a higher level, I thought his call out was absolutely perfect. Called out Benoit Saint Denis. I mean, Benoit Saint Denis coming off of a major loss, a very, very public loss. Now, I mean, everybody saw what happened there with Patty. So I think that might be a little bit of a stretch to think that they're going to bounce Rombechki all the way to BSD. But if they do, if they knew it was good for this organization, I think that they would make that fight happen because that would be an entertaining as fuck fight.
I don't think it's up to us to make that call, but we have to find out if there's some beef between France and Poland. If they push this, we will get that fight. But if not, I don't know.
I'm sure
So,
that it's somebody who's into like World War history can probably tell us something about that at some
yeah,
point. But either
exactly.
way, I do like that matchup though. So if they do end up doing that, I think that would be a pretty fun one, and then maybe he can get the shine he deserves.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, then, next up on the docket here, this was an interesting one. Of course, this is Dennis Bazukia versus Bogdan Grad. Starting this thing off, though, it cannot be, we can't talk about anything first without acknowledging this hair and mustache combination on Bogdan Grad. We were calling him Mogden Grad in the watch along chat because he is out here mogging with this style that he has. Now, what do you think?
Yeah, it was an interesting look. I don't know if he was going for an Italian mustache kind of deal or what the dealio was, but very different from what he had. I thought he had more aura before. This was like a cry for help look, but hey, it is what it is. It was a fun fight. For what it was. This for Bogdangrad, I thought he had a great first round. Second round, I thought he slowed a lot. I thought he was slowing up a lot in that second round. So when we get to what we got, in the end, it what I will say is for somebody who was looking tired, the squeeze looked legit, but we'll talk about that in a second. I think the first round was great. Bogdangrad thinks that he is like one of the most creative strikers in the game. For give him credit, he landed that little up elbow. It did nada. Okay, let's stop spinning 17 different times in the fight though. That's the main issue is he does too many spins. He may trust his wrestling for to be able to like, oh, they can take me down all I want, but like you're not landing anything. Like you're only risking because you've never like actually enacted anything with it. I don't know. Actually, I think he landed one body kick that was really good, but
I just wanted to add that that same note will be very prevalent in the next fight that we're going to talk about with one of the fighters there. But yeah, I do
gotcha.
agree with you. It's he is creative. He's very dynamic. He's one of these guys. He's a smaller guy, so he kind of uses the shorter stature to be kind of an explosive ball of energy kind of fighter, which fair play to him on all of that. That's fine, but you are right. It's like when you're out there, we talk about this with a lot of fighters that do all this creative shit. It's like if you're unless you are Mauricio Hoofy and you're actually landing the big shot and it is a kill shot, you're whiffing a bunch of it. You're expending energy that you don't need to expend, and then in round two, you end up looking tired. So
No, absolutely. Yeah, he's got a lot of movement to his game, and it just it is what it is. He looked tired, and maybe he won't next time. Hopefully, he realizes that that's not what needs to happen. Bazookia, unfortunately, I think it's because he just kind of looks like him, but I always just see him and I'm like, oh, yeah, this is the guy who's maybe like Matt Schnell. So he comes in here, and I know that he's training partners with Aljo and Marab, so that always makes me assume, okay, he's not as good in the grappling as them, and he does not have any striking, just like them. So I, but to be fair, his striking didn't even look that bad. I actually felt like I was seeing a decent performance on the striking. I was like, oh, okay, like this dude, he kind of is like Matt Schnell. Yeah, okay, he's got hands a little bit.
that was going to be my note, is that I thought that the round one was this was a good round one in this fight for
Hmm.
sure. I thought it was two-way at times. Bazookia had a couple of good connections on the feet. Grod was really in control of the pace, which I think kind of made it an interesting dynamic there because Bazookia was kind of catching shots. Grod was keeping the position interesting, making it a dynamic, the motions of the fight dynamic. Pace was high throughout all that round. Like I said, Grod's a man on a mission out there, so it was a good first round for both these guys. A little bit more to Grod, I would say. But yeah, to the note about Bazookia being a Ray Longo guy, Aljo training partner, it's like you'd think that this pace would not be an issue for him. Grod started round two sort of slow, and I think that both of them kind of slowed down a little bit in that round. It was not a super fast round for Bazookia either. And I said, oh, maybe the Longo conditioning is not all there for him. It's like it's that point that we make. That's the Colby thickness right there. Just because you train with the greats does that it doesn't just like happen by osmosis. Like just because you're next to the guy doesn't mean that you take on all of those characteristics unless you're Bilal, and then you absorb their energy. And I won't finish the quote, but yeah. So either way, I mean, Grod ends up getting the takedown here, and this gets into the finishing sequence, and there's a lot to talk about here. I mean, do you want to start that off?
Yeah, I mean, there's not really much anything else that I remember going on. They were just striking back and forth. Then they got a little tired, and then yes, the takedown came, and then we get into an triangle sequence, and God and Grod ends up passing, the to the side. So he's got the choke locked in. It looks dead to rights, and then we get a sequence where Bazookia is fishing around, pushing on legs, doing something, and then as soon as Grod actually like completely passes over, he starts to like move his hand in a way that would appear to be a tap from the official, which then the fight is then called off. And as one would do when they don't think that they have rightfully tapped, or they portray that they have not rightfully tapped, they would argue the call, and Bogdan gets to walk away with a W because there's no second chances in this sport. So, what would you like to say about it, Thinker?
Yeah, two things. One, I think that Bazookia, like, I hesitate to say that he did this to himself. Of course, it's not that.
Mm.
Obviously,
Well, he
Grod.
did.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, that's kind of the other side of it. It's like it's not his fault that Grod, had him in the head and arm, but it kind of is. I mean, it's all of that stuff. But like Grod gets the takedown, has the head and arm, but he's very close to the cage. If you saw the positioning, they were right on the cage, and Grod had his back to the cage, and Bazookia is like laying kind of sideways to the cage, perpendicular to the cage. It's not no parallel. Excuse me, parallel to the cage. So the issue that I had was that Bazookia is trying to lift Grod with his legs. He lifts Grod off, but and Grodd turns his body. It was the worst thing that Bazookia could have done because it basically put Grodd into a better, like, you don't have a lot of room where you're at already. Grodd was not going to be able to swing his body into a better position to get the choke more effectively unless you put him there. And that's what Bazookia did. And I was like, bro, you gave Grodd the space to put more pressure on. So that's part one. The Phantom Tap is part two of it. I said it definitely looked like a phantom tap to me. I thought in the moment because I saw it in real time and then they played it in the replay too. And I was like, oh, that looked like a tap. I said, I said on the watch along, it looked like a tap to me. I saw it on the replay. You see it from the other angles. I see how it was a phantom tap, but I certainly do think it's an understandable position for the referee. This was Jason Herzog, I believe, in this one. So, obviously he's seen many
Of
taps.
course it was.
We'll talk about refereeing more so going forward, of course. But this one, I don't give him a lot of flack for because I do. You see the hand, it's in that sort of position, and you see the hand come back, and it's only the single tap, but it does look like a tapping motion. You know the deal in a position like this. If you do literally anything that is tap like, you run the risk of this exact thing happening. So I can't really fault Herzog. I mean, now granted, didn't help that Herzog was not definitive in that moment either. It's like all in or all out, buddy. And we'll talk about that again later on. But um, that did not help the matter. But at the same time, like I said, you do anything that even looks like it. We've seen it where I remember one distinctly. I forget what fight it was, but it was a Keith Peterson where he actually was checking someone's arm. He pulled the arm off, and it slanged back and looked like that. He stopped the fight because of that. That was a terrible one. That was his fault. But the point remains that the hand was still in that motion. It went back and it slammed down.
Yeah.
Tap motion. I hate that it happened to you, brother, but all of the things that led up to it, I can't in this specific situation, I can't be too mad at the referee.
Yeah, it was one of those ones where the choke had been locked in, and like as a audience member, you're like, oh yeah, it's done. So Herzog is in the mindset of like, all right, let me get to him as quick as possible. If I see him, give me that sign. If he starts, so I think he was. I think you're right. It's the hand positioning. It's the way that it is. Like you could try to do a fist next time if you don't want to get caught for tapping. But the, it was definitely something that he definitely and fighters do this, and I'm not going to say Bazooki is one of them. Fighters, they will try to get away with shit. They will not. They will tap, but they won't. And then they're gonna make a big deal about it. Like, why would you end the fight? I don't know. So sometimes fighters be trying to get away with stuff to save face, and now they're gonna argue with the ref to make it seem like, no, he fucked up. I wasn't gonna fucking quit. So I don't know.
That was going to be my point. Is this? It's a save face moment at times there too. Now, I'm not saying that is exactly it in this situation, but there probably is at least a little element of that where it's like you make a scene about it, then you can go on a podcast or on your YouTube channel and be like, "Oh, come on, guys, you saw you saw the whole thing. You know what really happened." It's like, all right. I mean, you're mush mouth and you're waffling at that point, I would say. But look, Bogdangrad made all of that happen. So I think that and Bogdangrad I thought was handled it very well himself. He was like, yeah, I didn't really feel it, but the referee is there for a reason. So I got to listen to him. I thought that was the exact right way to handle it. So all of that leading up to it was Bogdangrad making those things happen. Spins aside. Both of them slowed down a little bit in that second round. So it's like, he still had to push through to make the takedown happen into the finishing sequence. Don't let yourself get there and you never have to worry about it.
I just and obviously there's other people who have longer tenures. When you look at Dennis Bazookia, he hasn't been around the longest. He was on the Contender Series twice. So it's hard for me to say that he's like a decorated veteran in the sport. But the way that he was acting in the fucking post fight shit, when Grodd was getting his name called and he's acting like a little fucking whatever. Like, bro, you have a decorated team with you. You're not you making them look bad. So I don't know, it's crazy.
Yeah, for sure. Unfortunate in that instance, but it is what it is, and Bogdangrad gets himself a nice win because of it, and I'm happy about that because I like Bogdangrad.
He is cool, but I don't think that he's gonna be, he might lose a lot.
Yeah, I mean, at featherweight, being the size that he is, it's going to definitely be an uphill battle, but we'll see how he can fare against the next opponent, I suppose.
Absolutely.
All right, good deal. Well, if I can find my mouse, there we are. All right, next up on the docket here, of course, was Borislav Nikolic versus Mark Vologdin. This I was just referencing. You want to talk about a guy who needs to stop fucking spinning? Mark Vologdin looked like a little dreidel out there, a little spinning top at times. Brother, please stop. Like, I mean, he's Mark Vologdin is a tough cookie. This guy is a tough son of a bitch over here. He can take some crazy damage and was taking some crazy damage towards the end of this fight. But you know what would have been better for you, Mark Vologdin? Giving more damage early in this fight to make it a more competitive fight. That would have been the real thing to do. He gets these, he could get the flash knockdowns early, and that might have maybe put him in his own mind a little bit ahead. Like maybe a little bit ahead of the pack, ahead of the race or whatever. But it's like, bro, just consistency would have been way more of a better strat for you in this, and that would have been hand in hand with not doing all of these unnecessary flashy spins attacks. It just wasn't working for him.
Mark is an interesting fighter because he doesn't look like he can drop down to featherweight, which is unfortunate. And I'm sorry, flyweight, excuse me. And if he did, he would probably have some crazy power, but I don't think that's possible. What I will say though, the first round is he looked really good. The fight came to him. He was able to get in there, get his shots, drop him, show Nikolic that he is like actually a good fighter. Like we got to earn some respect. I think Mark Volodin did that well when he took the first round. The second round, you could definitely tell that Mark just does. He's a big stocky guy, got a lot of muscles, man. Young guy too. I hopefully the cardio gets better, but you could just tell that he was not as active as the first round, and the power just wasn't there anymore. But what I will give Mark Volodin, and this is something that being the shorter fighter, I think he's had to master, of course, because his range distance management is very, very good. It's the eyes, man. He can always slip any shot. I feel like his head is always just dropping, like he's always able to just make that shot miss. And he's fast, man. And I think the spinning shots it's unfortunately a product of him being so small. Like you can't just do the same thing every time, which is just blitz inside and drop a bunch of bombs. Like it's not his game, and that's not the game that Nikolic was letting him play. So I got a rangy attack. I can't just throw a naked kick because he's just going to punch me in the face. We got the same range, my leg, his reach. I'll just throw a spin kick. I'll probably do it way more than I should, but it unfortunately was at the expense of his cardio. But he was already tired, and what's actually funny? Mark Volodin is interesting in this way because I kind of relate to him. I feel like he's sitting there tired, but like a big burst of energy. He can do that. He can just drop a spin kick really quick, but like he's gonna be like really tired. He can't like, pull like a second wind out, but like in any moment he could just go wham. So I think Mark is again, I really like Mark Wahlberg. I think he's a good listen, give him somebody who's similar size to him and not these giants who are gonna try to take his head off. But
Well,
listen, go ahead. Go ahead.
no,
I'll
I
let
was
you
going
go.
to say that because that a lot of people on the watch along were saying the same thing about oh, he should go to flyweight, he'd have better success there, and I was kind of thinking of the same lines as you were. I'm like, it would be great if he could make that weight, but he has so much bulk for his size. He's a small guy, but he is a bulky dude. Like he's the same build as Abdul Hussein that we saw fighting on the Abu Dhabi card, but just size wise tall, but width wise, I mean, this dude is he's a little ball of muscle over here. It's going to be very hard for him to make that weight if he can actually get that cut down. And plus, the other thing too is it's not even about making the weight for one or two or whatever. Like if you're talking about him establishing at a lower weight, he's got to be able to do that every single time, and that's a hellish cut, I would think.
Yeah, he's got to get in contact with The Rock or Dave Batista and see how they deflated. He's got to get down a few weight classes and then he can bulk back up to 25.
I mean, I don't know if those GLP-1s are banned substances or not, but that is the question. You'd have to consult his nutritionist about that.
No, absolutely. But no, this was an interesting fight because okay, so Mark Volodin won round one. Round two, I would say was closer, but Nikolic probably took it. Now, round three is where it got interesting because I didn't realize it at the time because I was rooting for Mark for so much, but this was like a 10-7 round. Like this
Yeah,
round three, he whooped Mark Volodin's at. Like it's not even. that he was whooping him and like it was so bad. I mean, 87 strikes doesn't tell the story, but Mark Volodin was on the back foot, just evasive, and everything was landing for Nikolic. He had him rocked a few times, and then of course the ending sequence is really where I need you to start speaking your mind, because Mark Volodin didn't look like he got up and got to his stool. Now, in rewatch, when the choke was in and, it was in for a minute and the fight ends and he doesn't get up, normally you're supposed to, get to your corner. Come on, finish your corner. There's a reason that Merab lost by submission, is because he didn't fucking get to his stool after Ricky Simone did that, it's a technical submission or whatever. So this this was interesting because nobody said anything, and I don't think the commentary was supposed to pick up on that. They normally are supposed to be like, "Hey, he's gonna get up, man. He's gonna
Oh
get
yeah.
up."
No, commentary was slacking in a couple of instances. One other one that is a big one that we'll talk about later on, but definitely in this instance as well. Because yeah, and to be fair, I did not see it in the moment, but on rewatch, it was definitely apparent. Yes, absolutely. On rewatch, first of all, 10-8 round completely warranted. In the moment, it's like you're watching the moments of the fight, right? So it's like, I'm looking at everything that's happening. I'm seeing all the damage, of course, remembering the beginning of the round, maybe not as fresh in my mind because I'm, kind of going through the sequence of it. But after rewatching it, yeah, definite 10-8 round here. Volagdin, Felicia Spencering out there, he was taking a lot of damage, and being one tough punching bag is not going to win you a fight. But I said in the notes, I have it written. Chase definitely correct. Volagdin was fucking out at the end of this fight. Remember Fumi and Kuta from the MVP card that we were talking about? He was doing the Leonardo DiCaprio point at that one. It's like they had the whole big thing on the MVP card about him being out or not out or whatever. This dude was definitely out, but
I
nothing to be said.
To be fair, in the moment I thought he was out. And when I watched it in the replay, I also thought like, man, it even if he wasn't, because the way that I'm looking at it, like you see him there, he's like, and he takes like a big old deep breath. Like I didn't think it was like, oh, he's just like unconscious snoring kind of deal. It looked like a holy shit, I'm fucking done, kind of deal. But
But face down.
he was tired, bro. You don't want to move sometimes, like I mean, I want to believe that, like, yeah, it was tough, but like he may have been like in a daze, but like sometimes where you're just like you just so low energy, you just can't move, but like a deep breath is like all you need. I feel like that's maybe what it was, but it's still, if he could not get up, and the ref should have been, Mark Goddard should have been on his ass. Get up, get your ass up, hey, let's go,
Yeah,
stool, buddy. And if he didn't, that's a submission, unfortunately.
for sure. No, yeah, I agree entirely. Absolutely. Yeah, most definitely. And then again, coming after all of that sustained damage in that round, it would have been very appropriate, I thought. I mean, he is a very tough guy. He took a lot of damage in that round, but a submission is a submission is a submission, and you got to be able to get up at the end of the fight. I mean, that's just part of the game. So, yeah, I think it is an unfortunate situation there. Of course, obviously, Nikolic ended up taking the fight, so he won either way. The one thing I also wanted to mention about Nikolic that I noticed when with all of the striking that he was doing, this guy overswings his shots. He launches his entire body into his strikes sometimes, man. Like this dude is going to get countered like crazy by fighters who are bigger and have bigger reaches than Mark Volagdin. So just keep that in mind for if you see him on another card coming up and he fights a taller guy. Like this dude leaves himself open like crazy. And that really, like in that second going in, that third round was one-sided, but that second round kind of had like a chaos turning into sloppiness sort of motif with this, because like both guys were sort of just throwing the spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. Volagdin is drop kicking, Nikolic is overswinging. It's entertaining, but it was like got a little bit chaotic, I would say, and a little bit sloppy. So just something to keep in mind.
And listen, I hate to be this guy, but I obviously make an opinion on everything that speaks to me. Am I the only one that thought this Nikolic guy was a little unsettling when he was on the camera? Like, I don't know. He just had a Oh no, there was
But
just he just like his posture and the way that he was looking at the camera when the fights were starting. I was like, why is he looking at me like that? Like, I don't know.
yeah, he did have a little like a curious swagger to him, I would say. Like because there was that time in the first round where he obviously he got flash knocked down, and then he was in like a guillotine, or he was in some kind of he had to get out of something. He gets out of it and he starts emoting. He's like waving his hands above his head. It's like, bro, I mean, maybe this is not the right time to be doing that. Like he just maybe a little bit off. I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah, no, he's interesting though. I even knew, hey, nickname Zombie. He's definitely taking a bunch of shots by the time he's out of the UFC. So
Well, and
Nice.
like I said, a taller guy is going to be able to counter him for sure. So keep that in mind. But in this moment, a definite, a solid win and getting the 29-27s across the board. Everybody 10-8'd that last round, which was certainly appropriate. So good job.
Yeah.
Good deal there. And Volkdeen, I really, he reminds me of like a guy like a Torres Finney, where it's like, the size is just going to be the albatross around his neck for a lot of his career. Obviously, very different fight styles, but you know what I'm saying here.
He's going to be the modern day Clay Guida. There you go.
If he can rise to that occasion, I mean, a round three like that is kind of concerning for that style of fight because if like first two rounds are going to be okay, but if you can't sustain that, then you end up being a Felicia Spencer, a tough punching bag.
Yeah, this record's crazy. 12-5-2 for Mark Volodine for his, he's 0-1 in 1 in the UFC right now, so
Wild.
whatever.
Yeah, absolutely wild. But he is fun, so that'll keep
Yeah.
him around for sure. He's definitely, I would say, a fan favorite to an extent.
Never had a boring fight so far, Not a lot of people can say they're 3 for 3 right now, so good
Yeah,
for him.
most definitely, for sure.
Mm.
All right. Up next was Oban Elliott, and he fought Michael Oliveira. Oliveira had broken his hand after his win on the Contender Series, and they said on commentary that he had 20 screws and 2 titanium plates put into his hand. So, literal metal inside of this dude's hand, the thing that he strikes with. Are we just okay with this?
I guess we just have to be. I mean, Connor came in with a titanium shin and nobody said anything. It just snapped in half the last time we saw him or something like that. But either way, this fight, oh gosh, this was unfortunate, but you can't predict these things. Some people are just able to take shots, but I think there's something more important about it's just an archetype of fighters. There are some fighters who are going to say yes to a fight and they may or may not know that they are probably going to lose. Listen, I'm not saying Oban Elliott knew that he was going to lose or he was going to get finished. He lost on purpose, but he has the type of ego where, yeah, I'll go up against this dude who has that ability, and and his fighting style is to trade punches. So in his mind, I'll be the one that can take those punches, and it's just a bad thing because I think Oban really needs to navigate his career better than this because you just let a dude on your. This is another dude on their debut that just worked you over, and this one worse this time, man. Like
Oh,
it,
yeah.
it sucks to see for Oban. Wow, man, this was just a bad, bad one to take.
It was bad, and it was also a little bit confusing. Okay, Oban Elliott did like he struck a couple of times and looked okay with some of the lands that he had, but he was on the back foot pretty early into this fight. Like he lands one or two, Oliveira just kind of calmly walking through that pressure, really not letting it bother him at all, which good to see from him, of course. But first jab is what ends up dropping Elliott, and it's an awkward fall. This is the thing that was really surprising to me. I thought on the watch along, I had said I thought it was an eye poker, that there might have been some kind of like something that hit the eye, because the way he went down was almost like he looked surprised by it, and like he sort of spun. It was like it was just an awkward drop. His body kind of just went dwanky, and I thought that he did the right thing going for the level change thereafter. But if you're not going to put enough on it to actually like to follow through with it and make it a full on, ground situation, get the takedown out of it, it's not going to do anything for you. And it was a nice sprawl from Oliveira to not let that happen. And then just a right hand drops Elliott for the second time. Oliveira lands a couple more. He kind of like flopped himself onto Oban's body. He kind of like hopped on and just sort of like kind of going to the side of the head, which was interesting to see that as the end. But like it was just kind of an odd dynamic from the Elliott side of this thing. Like, did you not know that this guy had power? I guess maybe because he's a newer guy, maybe there wasn't as not much like tape to watch, or I like. You would have thought that Oban Elliott might have navigated this fight a little bit differently, and then at least after feeling the power the first time and going down awkwardly, had a better plan B, a better second strategy.
Yeah, no, it's just unfortunate for Oban. I think, the game planning just probably it just really wasn't there. I mean, he's a striker at heart. You told him that he's going to be facing a striker. What other game plan is there? I'm the Welsh gangster. I do what I want around here. I think it's this gave me shades of like Larry and Douglas versus Juicy J, where just like he just touched him and the dude just fell over. It's like, what are you like? Why are you acting like you've never been punched before? Like I feel like Oban was just a little worried about the power. He went in there. And again, ego's a hell of a thing. He signs a contract. I'm ready to go fight this big, powerful striker. But when he gets in there, he's a little abrasive and he's ready to counter strike. And then he gets dropped with a jab. And now shit's just hit the fan. I just got dropped with. I don't even know what the fuck he just hit me with. But so I hate to say it for Oban, but there was no game plan. It looked like
Yeah.
it's unfortunate. Michael Oliveira looked very, very good. I'm not gonna say I'm not. Listen, again, you got to do more than just knock somebody out. You got to do it more times. You got to do it against better competition. Oban is a good start. That's a very good start. Salkilld Ko, I think, is another dude on my radar now because that was a very good start to his career. Michael Oliveira, though, what I will say, I don't know if you guys noticed the hair, but he's gonna start showing his age a little sooner than you guys think. It was looking like he was starting to thin a little bit up top, and there's no shame if he needs to go bald. That's okay, but I think right now he looks like he kind of still has that young stallion look to him. If we start seeing gray or he's got to go bald, I think we're gonna be like, oh God, what happened to this dude? What
Not just
So
get ahead of it. Just shave it off. I mean,
I
all in
agree.
or all out. I'm definitely of that mindset where
He's
it's
only
like if
28. Holy shit. This dude looks way old. Like what?
yeah,
Oh my goodness.
some people, premature balding is a
Okay.
thing for sure. But yeah, no, I mean, all in or all out. I always say when it comes to that. But I did want to, just address because like you're talking about the people starting their careers off with Oban Elliott wins here. Now it's like when you brought up the Leon Douglas fight, at least it's like with Juicy J, he's a veteran of the sport. That's like it makes the sport is very common to feed the veterans to the young up and comers. Oban Elliott has no excuse, brother. I mean, he's as new and as fresh as any of these guys. So it's like, dude, you're starting to rack up losses to guys who are just better. I mean, that there's really no other way to describe it. Unfortunately, Suk Ko basically showing that he's better on the ground. Michael Oliveira basically showing that he's better on the feet. Like Oban Elliott's got to pick a lane, get to it, and establish himself if he wants to stick around in a meaningful way here at this point. I would say.
Yeah, the what I will say though is finding out that he's 28, I was kind of he was kind of like an Edson Barbosa. Like he's like way too old to be in that shape kind of dude. Like a Jared Cannonier. Like why is he in that good a shape? That's what I was kind of getting the vibes from. If he's 28, all right, just go bald a little sooner, and I think you'll be okay. Grow the beard out, get a different look going, get some aura. You already got it. Everybody seems to like you. What is it? PQD? I mean, it's cool. I don't even know what it means, but it sounds cool when John Anik says it, and he's all screaming, and Bruce Buffer does it. But Michael Oliveira, just keep knocking people out. I mean, if that's going to be your game, is to just walk in there and knock people out. There's plenty of people who do that. I want to see you do it, if not better, just as good as them. So let's see it.
Yeah, I agree. He does have the aura to begin with already as the paratrooper. I mean, he comes in with an interesting story there, and I think that the PQD, I think, comes from that in some way. I don't know exactly what it stands for, but yeah, I think that just consistency is key. You a good start, keep doing it.
And here, I didn't even know they had computers in Brazil. You're telling me they have planes to jump out of?
Oh
Mm,
my God! All right, there, Uncle Chael. I also did want to address this because thank you for Hydra for coming in with this. Just to kind of bookend this, I was talking about the plates in the hands. Hydra says when I watched some doctor on YouTube, they said that the metal implants are normally not any stronger than bone and also cause pain to the person who has them, so it's not an advantage. Fair enough if that's the case.
absolutely. And shout out his next comment, of course. He looks older because he was a paratrooper, yes. Brazil during counter terror and cartel operations. He's seen some shit, I'm sure, that ages you. Fair.
Very, very true. Yeah, very fair point indeed. And of course, thank you for being here, Hydra. Yeah, so good deal, good win. Keep doing what you're doing. This is a great start. And Oban Elliott very much back to the drawing board because he needs to figure out where he fits into the equation at this point.
Absolutely.
All right, next up is this fight. Ludovic Klein versus Tafik Musayev. Chase, what did I say on the previous podcast? Did I say that it did not matter who Tafik Musayev fights? It matters who his referee is. Is that what I said?
It does maybe ring a bell, but I would say, guys, for what it's worth, for the referee stuff aside, rather referee being paid by Tofik aside, this was one of the cleaner performances that he's probably gonna have.
I mean,
Think
okay.
about that.
Yeah, well, you talk about it's like you got a car and it's got it's coming off of mudding, and like so you have that versus when it has just a streak of mud down the back. Yeah, it's cleaner, but is it
Mm.
still clean? I don't know about all that. Tofik Musayev is rapidly becoming one of, if not the dirtiest fighters in the UFC right now. I mean, it's him, it's Cyril Gahn, Priscilla Koshweda. You can probably name a couple of other ones, but he is high on this list at this point, and it just doesn't seem like there's any signs of stopping. I mean, as I say often, I am often saying this nowadays. If the refs don't do anything about it, it's just legal, and that is what he is taking advantage of. We talked about it on the last episode. I can't even be mad at it because you do make a good point. People go out there, they just fight. It's not their job, even though it should be their job to stop themselves from doing illegal shit. It is the referee's job. And when you have Kerry fucking Hatley as your referee, this is the outcome right here. And this, we'll get to the finish. We can talk the fight through, but I'll certainly talk about the finish when we get to that.
Well, the fight itself wasn't actually anything of importance so far. I mean, up until the finish, they were just kind of standing in front of each other, trading. I expected Tofik to look a lot better on the feet, but I also expected Ludovic to like try to wrestle. He just didn't even attempt, which was weird. He was okay with standing with Tofik, like, and it wasn't like he was losing, like off rip. Like it was close, but he wasn't doing anything to win, like Tofik was just doing his thing and he's the striker and he's doing great. Ludovic Klein is, he's defensively, against Tofik, who's the striker, so for him to take the game and make it a fight, he was supposed to take him down. He was supposed to grab a hold of him. But the fact that he stood with him so long that the commentary, by the time they've ran through all the stories about Ludovic, they came around to his leg. Tofik finally caught on to it too and started kicking him in that shit. So, you have a first round where it was close on the feet, and then the second round it's close on the feet, and now my leg fucking hurts. Like, so it was not looking great for Ludovic. I don't know where the game plan was. Didn't look like he was 100%. That's what I want to say. I don't know if he was 100%, whether or not he had to code through and save the card because this is kind of his region, whatever you want to say. Tofik didn't even look the best. Tofik didn't even look like he could work over a Ludovic Klein on the feet if he wasn't even at 100%. So that was what was unfortunate. But the craziest part is this finish. Now
Well,
Tofik, oh, go ahead. You go ahead.
yeah, it's just gonna let me I'll get through some of these notes, and we'll because yeah, I trust I have opinions as well. Yeah, so to start off here, I did want to be fair about Musayev when it comes to his dirt ballness. He did take a heavy kick to the nuts in this fight and
Mm.
waved the referee off. So I was like, look, at least if he's gonna give out the dirtiness, at least he can take it, and he didn't make a fuss about it. What?
That was a weird moment because he took the kick. Kerry was like, "You're good," and he was like, "Yeah, move, move, move." And he's like all up in, and Ludovic's like, "Hold on, are you good?" And then like Kerry's like, "Go back," and he's like, "No, no, no." Like it was like a whole standoffish kind of moment. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. Clearly, Kerry Hatley does not speak Azerbaijani. I don't know how that works, but
True. Yes, that's definitely very true. So yeah, I mean, aside from that, I think Musayev was doing nice with the kicks, and I don't know. I mean, like I didn't see anything because to your point about this not really being a crazy active fight, but with either side except for the kicks from Musayev early on. I thought that Klein, it sort of seemed like he might have felt the power at some point early in the round, and then wanted to stay out of the pocket to not take the hand striking, but I didn't really see anything that like would give you that impression that he was like feeling it off of any of the strikes that had landed. So it's like he just didn't really look like he wanted to be in the pocket, but that gave Musayev the kicking range that he ended up using pretty effectively. So he took that first round, in my opinion, with the kicks. Not many impactful lands from Klein. And then, as you had said, commentary making a big deal about the leg injury, and then Musayev, starts targeting it. A strat's a strat, legal strat. At least if you're going to be a dirt ball, at least use legal strats to do so. Not even really dirty. That's part of the game. So I'm okay with all of that. Not a major turn up from either of these guys, but definitely a solid back and forth exchange late in round two, and then we finally get into the finish sequence. So go ahead and give your thoughts about that, and I will also.
well, there's not much thought about it. I mean, Tofik finally found the shot. He definitely wobbled Ludovic, got him up against the cage, and was working him over for a second. And then Kerry Hatley just got way too fucking close once again. We talked about the other week. If you are having to pry the fighters off of each other in a standing position, you're doing something wrong. Now, when I say that, I would also hope you understand that getting your leg caught in between them and getting tangled up is also not what you need to be doing, brother. How did you first off, I love when they try to do that like, that like scoot in between them look, because this is exactly what happens when you lead with your fucking leg and they're like wrestling. Like, what are you doing? Like, I'm screaming at the screen, like, get the man. And it sucks too because he's already touching both of them. Like the fight's got to be over now. I mean, he already made contact, whether they know that that's his leg or not. The referee's touching the fighters. The fight's over. What's he going to do next is the question. And then, of course, Ludovic gets his head beat in a couple different times, and then we finally get a stoppage, and it is what it is. It was just unfortunate to see. But how did you see it, Thinker, is the real question.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a crucial point being left out of that
Oh, okay.
assessment here. So yes, I mean, obviously, Kerry Hatley, way too close, gets his fucking foot stuck in the action, which was, classic Kerry. Kerry doing Kerry
Comical.
things. But the bigger issue to me, that was certainly a big one. But the bigger one was that happened right around the same time that Tofik starts landing shots on the back of Klein's head. He is illegally striking him into the finish. Kerry Hatley stops it. I thought in the moment, I thought Kerry Hatley was stopping to acknowledge the illegal strikes. I thought he was actually going to do his job here, saying, "Hey, stop hitting him in the back of the fucking head." No, he actually stopped the fight. So I said, bravo, Kerry Hatley. Another classic fuck up. I mean, you literally stuck your foot into the fight and then did not acknowledge the illegal shots that were being landed, playing right into Tafik Musayev, who is one of the dirtiest fighters in the whole of this sport right now. It's like I just don't understand it, especially when they have the reputation as well. Cyril Gahn coming into the White House card, as I had said, in previous episodes of this show, compilations upon compilations of that guy fouling people. What does he do on the biggest stage that the sport has ever seen? He fouls again. Right, this Musayev had the entire fight with Bahamundes, where you could see all kinds of dirtball behavior. No acknowledgement of that in any capacity from the officiating. It's just it really gets tiresome, I guess is what I would say at the end of the day. But we both picked Musayev to win. I didn't know that Kerry Hatley was reffing this fight, but I guarantee you go back to that watch along. When I found out that Kerry Hatley was the referee, I said, "Oh, we got this in the bag. It's done. It's over." And what had happened? This happened.
Yeah, if you ever have seen a cartoon where they have the fight cloud and somebody gets pulled into it, that's almost what happened here. It was really good. I just can't believe out of all the ways to mess up a fight, they genuinely do find new ways every single week. It's crazy, isn't it?
New and interesting ways to cock shit up. So,
Mm.
congratulations, gentlemen. I expect nothing less from these world class officiants who, time and time, they flew Kerry Hatley from the United States all the way to fucking Serbia to do that shit.
I bet they paid for his room too.
Brother, that's what I said before too. It's like it must be nice to just be a member of the commission. You just get to sit back and never have to do anything. No reprimands for anybody. Everybody can just do whatever they want. No one ever gets in trouble for anything, and life goes on. You get paid.
Yeah, absolutely. It must be nice.
Must be nice indeed, but must be nice for Tafik Musayev because he got himself a win here. Again, it wasn't the greatest fight, but he did do what he was supposed to do at the end. I mean, he was striking consistently. Ludovic just kind of crumbled towards the end there as well. He was going to lose this fight regardless of the back of the head shots, so I'm not as mad about that part of it, but I am still mad about that part of it. Other than that, anything else on this, Chase?
No, this one was just unfortunate, but Tofik got the win and he's gonna stick around. I mean, as a dude that fights the way he does, I think he adds a little spice to the lightweight division. I think a lot that's a very clean cut division when you get down to it. Not many people are just out there just being the villain and not having to talk about it. He's low key going to be your worst nightmare. Your fighter that you love, when he gets matched up to Tofik and he gouges his eyes out, you're going to be like, what are we doing? How did he do this? How did he get away with it? Here's your evidence right here.
Yeah, who could have ever seen that coming?
Yep. So
Yeah, good deal though. Yeah, I mean, a win's a win, so congratulations. And yeah, I mean, it does add a villainous aspect to the division, so I will give you that as well.
absolutely.
All right, this one was unfortunate. This was Milos Janicic versus Noah Gugnon, the Frenchman here. I said, "Welp, I mean, what do you say about this? The very very first kick of the fight, Milos's leg just goes all kinds of dwanky, and you see him. What was interesting to me is that like he takes the kick." you instantly know that something is off. I mean, he's not putting weight on it correctly. He almost looked like he goes toes down for a second there, and it almost looked like he was almost intentionally kind of like rolling it, not rolling it as in like twisting it to like, go like hyperextend, but like almost looked like he was like trying to see like how bad is this hurt. It's at least again in very quick motion, so might not have been that, but what it looked like was that like if foot goes down, he's kind of like puts it up on the toes and sort of like rolls it for a second to be like, am I still good? The answer was no, you were not still good, and did not get better from there.
Yeah, this fight was unfortunate, of course, and I'm glad you noticed. Yeah, because they went into the booth and they're like, "Oh no, it was the kick right here on the elbow that did it." It's like, okay, let's not blow it out of proportion. Yes, he did land a kick right there. It probably hurt like a bitch, but it was that first kick. It just did not do something. Just did not go right. So it's unfortunate because yeah, you're watching him step and you're watching his toes curl under his foot and he can't do anything. Credit to him, he tried to throw a kick. He kept trying to throw kicks with it off the other foot. It did not work for him. Noah Gungnan, I want to say that it was a bold choice to go grapple with a person when they're completely immobilized. That's that Yuri shit. He had honor. Like, oh, well, let's have a fair fight. Let's go grapple. If he wouldn't have got the finish, if he wouldn't have got the sub right then, it would have been a very bad look. But considering he did, hats off to him because it looked like he did. He felt like he stepped up to the moment. Like this wasn't a fluke for him. This was the biggest moment in his life. So this was good on him. Milos, on the other hand, damn, what a fucking unfortunate. Like he did all that. Montenegro stopped all their busy work at the embassy to get him his fucking shit, and now it was fucking a minute 21 seconds. 5 seconds
Yeah.
into the fight, it's over. Like,
I was gonna say that too, man. I mean, obviously Chase is referencing his show, the Street Word, which everybody should be watching if you're not already. But I was there for that episode you were doing, and yeah, I mean, we watched all of his lead up. We were getting to know the guy a little bit, I mean, this is also the same guy who had been doing great work in Dirty Boxing. So I mean, he came in with a good amount of hype and a good story, and just a guy that you wanted to root for. I mean, he was cultivating a little bit of a fan base just in real time with us, and then for him to go out like this was definitely something that made you feel real sad.
yeah, and this, and I'm not trying to compare this person to this other person in any way or shape or form, of course, but this was as freak of an accident as I will say, and people gave this dude a lot of shit. Conor McGregor got a lot of shit for what he did, and it was stupid. But it was just a freak accident. Sometimes you just throw a kick and now your foot doesn't work anymore. I don't know the science, guys. I'm not in the fucking headquarters of the fucking science department. All I know is that when he threw a kick, his foot stopped working. I can tell you that that is a fact that happened, and he did not perform the way that he should have. He needs another opportunity. And, like, I hope that when something like this happens, obviously you could sit here and be like, oh, well, why don't they just kick him in the nerve every time or something? It's like, it's not just that easy, guys. For some
Right.
reason, it just happens once in a blue moon. You just see a fighter whose leg randomly doesn't work, and you know for a fact you saw him walk in with both of them. So why the fuck it ain't working now? So it is a precarious thing, and I think Milos, he has such a big following, and I think he deserves an opportunity because that's fucked up. This
Oh
is not
yeah.
good.
No, I agree. But one thing I want to add to this conversation about Milos when it comes to that, though, is that something that Paul Felder said stuck out to me. He has said when the kick landed, he was like, I was going to say that he is susceptible to leg kicks. And I was wondering where that came from. Like, is this a recurring thing with him, perhaps, or something?
Mm.
Or was there a tell from a different fight that we don't know about? Something like that? Because why would that have stuck out to him specifically that he had to comment on that? So I don't know if Milos maybe just has a weakness in his legs. Again, like Conor McGregor, you're just talking about him. We know that there are certainly some susceptibilities to injury when it comes to that man. Milos just might be one of those guys too, people, and it sucks because you like the guy, but you got to reconcile with the reality, unfortunately.
Well, when you've been in dirty boxing, you're obviously not taking leg kicks, So it's depending on how long he's been there, he's not conditioned enough to just jump in here and be ready to take a full flush leg kick. Remember Connor, they were so prepared to baby, his ankle. So they wrapped it up, they used pads so much, but by the time the fight came, he didn't know what a real naked kick felt like. So it could be something like that. Maybe he came from dirty boxing and he was, treating his legs very protectively. And when he came in here, it just didn't go his way. But that's not what this is. This isn't like a, ow, my leg hurts, I'm gonna fall over. This is, he was trying to use his foot and it literally was just flopping around. So
Yeah.
it's just an unfortunate reality for him. I know,
Yeah.
bro. You could see it in his face, man. Like, god damn it! Like,
Oh
what
yeah.
out of all things could have happened? Like,
For sure. No, most definitely that. And I thought it was also unfortunate because what do we gain from this fight now? We learned that Milos potentially has a weakness in his feet slash legs, and we literally learned nothing about Gugnon. So really, I mean, what do you take away from this fight? It's just really just almost chalk it up to a scratch. I mean, like, it's so like Gugnon ends up getting another fight for sure. Milos hopefully will. You're going to have to take any information from this fight and just extrapolate the elements that you saw. Gugnon, you get nothing from. Milos, keep in mind that there may be a compromise there, but other than that, you really don't get anything going forward. It reminds me a lot of what we say with people coming in from the Contender Series, where it's like, how much do you actually take away from that? Like, you saw a great performance there. Can they replicate? Does it transfer? That's kind of the same issue here. Like, what actually is going to transfer to the next fight?
no, absolutely, yeah. I feel like this one is just a wash, unfortunately.
Yeah, it really is, and that sucks. So, fine win for Gugnon, I suppose.
Yep.
All right, that takes us to the next one here. Good lord, this goddamn fight, Vlasto Chepo, I believe is how they pronounce it, but I don't care to pronounce this man's name correctly. So Vlasto Cepo versus Gilbert Urbina. Gilbert fucking Urbina. This guy, Gilbert Urbina, fights once a year. I call him, shout out to the GOAT Cameron, the Cameron line from one of his songs. I come once a year, I'm like the carnival. That's what Gilbert Urbina reminds me of, man. He comes around once a fucking year, loses almost all the time, except comes to Serbia, across the goddamn planet, and gets this freaking upset, ruining every one of my parlays. So thank you, Gilbert Urbina. Now you decide to be a fighter.
Well, this one's interesting because I don't know if you saw the pre-fight promo pics of Vlasto, but he looked a lot more in shape than what he came into the fight. So it was a little, people were talking about, the regional scenes in Serbia, what you can get away with, of course. So when he came into the fight, I obviously I didn't like, I remember seeing highlights of this dude and he looked like a big powerful striker. And when he came into the fight, I was like thinking to myself, like, what fight am I watching? Like, who is this? This isn't like, I didn't recognize him as the guy that I saw the clips of earlier in the week. So I was like, who is this guy? But when he came into the fight, I feel like when it started, the way that he went in there, you know, he charged right at him, but it was not your normal, I'm just going to walk in and take your head off type of deal. I feel like the moment that this started and he charged in there, I feel like we all felt Urbina was going to win. Am I wrong about this? Because the way that Chepo came in here, dude, he was so agitated, locked and loaded, and Gilbert Urbina just really didn't give a shit. He just had his wonky little style, and he just stood back and just threw these weird punches, and he just fucking caught him with one. It took only a minute, and I'm not saying Gilbert looked like the fucking Matrix out there. There was a shot where Gilbert threw a knee and he tried to like throw it at an angle to his body, but Chepo turned around. So he like kneed him in the spine. It was like the weirdest thing that ever happened. But the fact is Chepo was charging in and he just looked so tense and he looked too ahead of the moment. I think Urbina, he came in with nothing to lose and just said, I'm just gonna punch this dude. I don't care how it happens. And it just happened that way, and Chepo falls to the fucking ground after Gilbert fucking Urbina drops him. And to be fair, it's at a different weight class. This is at a new weight class for Urbina, so new power, new abilities, whatever you want to chalk it up to. But this Chepo dude, I think, unfortunately, a tale that happens to a lot of regional fighters is they are able to get away with some stuff, and then they come in here and they have it's not a disrespect, but obviously he did not respect anything that Gilbert Urbina possessed, and neither did we. We both picked against him. I said there was no chance that Gilbert's going to lose, but the fact is, this game is cruel. You could lose to one of the worst dudes that we've seen, and you could now be the worst dude that we've seen. So that's just how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, no, you used a phrase that I thought was very, very accurate. You said that Chepo was ahead of the moment. That I think rings very, very true. Because yeah, he rushed in like a bull in a china shop, wild swings, no defense of any kind. And you were right. I mean, Gilbert Urbina, even as a guy who's taken a lot of losses, a guy with a lot of experience at this point, or at least way more than this dude. I mean,
Yeah.
even with the records being what they are, I mean, this guy is a UFC caliber fighter, or at least has been in the organization long enough to be considered as such. Gil stays calm, fires a few back, circles off the cage nicely, and then just catches him with one. I mean, that, and the other thing I wanted to mention too was that not only did he catch him, but he also recognized that the shot did what it needed to do, and the ground and pound from Urbina was very on point. That's another thing that sets him apart as a more tenured fighter. Is that, a lot of time, how many times have we seen these guys? They catch him, and then it's like, well, what's the next move? It's like, brother, that should be instinctual. And with Urbina, it certainly was. So I thought that was a nice switch in his brain that went off and allowed him to get the finish very effectively. So yeah, that happens.
I agree with you. The finishing sequence was pretty good by Gilbert because, listen, a lot of times when people go for these ground and pound situations, they're trying to find this money shot. They're trying to just pop them up. If you literally just take your whole forearm and you smash them with it, there's nothing they can do. Like it's the impact alone is going to make them have to move or do something else. Like it is. Listen, just stop. No punches in the ground and pound, elbows only from here on out. Gilbert Urbina, you are a trailblazer. Good man.
I like it, and like you said too, I mean, this was his debut at middleweight. Maybe that's all he needed. I mean, like we'll see. Time will tell on that part of it, of course. But he himself in his post fight was saying, the weight cut was really hard on him. He was having trouble with it. It was depleting him. He needed to be fighting at a more natural weight that made more sense for him and the abilities that he has. This could be the turn of the corner. And I would be very much here for that, because if you fight like this, especially with a guy that came in the way that he did, you're going to see other fighters that are going to come in more methodical. You have to be planning for that as well. But if a guy is going to come and bring a fight to you like this, and you're able to stay composed in the moment and turn it into your fight, I think that speaks volumes. So I'm good with Gilbert Urbina after a performance like that. Granted, the level of fight IQ and ability in the fight may not be there for Chepo. We're gonna have to see Gilbert do that against a variety of different versions of that. But if he's able to do that consistently, this new version of Gilbert Urbina might be somebody to put into a different category than we were on the previous episode.
The last thing I'll say about Gilbert, and this just goes to the mystique of now that we're rooting for him. A thing that I do like about him is his nickname is the RGV Bad Boy. It's like, bro, are you Tito Ortiz? Like, come on, what are you doing? Yeah.
I mean, there's that, and he also, he was shouting out the eagle and the snake for his Mexican heritage, which I thought was kind of cool. He's got his cowboy hat that he wears. What's not to like?
Yeah, well, his fights for the past couple, but we'll get into some good stuff here soon.
You make a very good point with that. That is not to like, but this is better to like. So keep doing this, Gilbert. We're gonna try to forget about the fact that you are now only 8-5, and the last couple were not great.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that brings us to this fight here, which of course was Dusko Todorovic versus Robert Valentin. Solid win for Robert Valentin. Starts this fight off with a Spartan kick. I thought that was cool, and it just kept going from there. I mean, it's so funny. Usually in my notes, like I'll have a note about this guy, and then a note about this guy, and maybe something else will happen. The notes are basically just Valentin did this. Valentin, there's 3, 4, 5 of them just start with Valentin, because he was the only one who was doing anything in this fight, except after the fight when Dushko became a translator. But we can talk about that.
We could talk about that, of course. Well, this fight is interesting because I have always believed in Robert Valentin. This dude has a lot of submissions, but the fight always starts on the feet. So I did find it interesting that he went in for the Spartan kick, and I find it even funnier that after he landed the Spartan kick and Dusko is like getting up off the ground, he's like, "What? You good? You're good? Like we're fighting, right?" It was like it's like, dude, you just kicked him across the cage. Like, give him a second. No,
especially also after the fact that he was the one that said no touch. Like,
yeah,
but what was that about? Like, Robert Valentin goes in with the whole, I'm going to be a warrior out there, but then it's like, hey, but are you all right, brother? Like,
yeah,
broke
no,
character.
but. And then this was absolutely insane because Dusko kind of shoots for a takedown. Robert Valentin blocks up this initial kind of guillotine, and in the moment, what you see is Robert Valentin lift a 185-pound man off of his feet with a guillotine. This was one of the crazy. I thought he was going to kill him. Like, I thought we were going to see a lifeless body hanging from it, because Dusko, and fair play to this dude. I don't know if I've ever seen a better escape from a ghillie, because he went in the air and somehow ended up on the bottom with no choke, you know. So give him credit, because even when he got to the bottom there and he's got, you know, Robert Valentine's arm around him, he looked very relaxed. He looked very calm in that moment. That's why, again, with the finish, it is very, very weird, because he was so confident. He was very calm, collected in the moments. There was even times where he swept Robert Valentine and he got to the top position, and then they went back. Robert Valentine got him back over. The grappling was really fucking fun here. Like, surprisingly underrated. Yeah.
And I was going to say that that all really came from the fact that Rob is such an active grappler. That's really a very good credit to him, man. He is never content holding position. He's always working towards something better, trying to find openings. He's actively seeking finishes when he can. Like that, it really came from him leading the charge, and then Dushko having to react to that and try to turn the tide himself. So I agree with you entirely. This was a really nice exchange between the two of them in that regard.
I mean, for 185, I mean, I don't know if it gets better in the grappling when it comes to something like this. This was really fun for Robert, and obviously, he's always threatening. And, you know, whether you want to be that guy that says, don't jump the gilly, listen, if you get the gilly, you can do it as many times as you fucking want. Because Dusko, again, he didn't learn his lesson from the first time, because he jumped right in head first for this fucking takedown. Robert Valentine, hey, he learns, guys. He's an advanced level grappler, because he didn't shoot the same gilly the second time. He just jumped right to the high elbow. And Dusko, he didn't tap quickly. I mean, if you're looking at it, okay, he's on the ground, okay, boom, then he taps. But like, you guys got to remember, he like tripped himself into this a little deeper. Like, it probably hurt when this dude was like squeezing. He probably is like, yeah, fuck that. You know, this dude just like broke my neck basically. So I don't think it was the worst tap, but you know, in Serbia, I thought she was gonna try a little harder, man. I don't know. I thought she was gonna really put on here for a second. You let little old Robert Valentine come out here and put a master class on you. You know.
I mean, and that's really where, for me, it was obviously the wrong choice here. I also thought that Dushko was going to be able to do a little bit better in this fight. I mean, as I had said on the previous episode, Valentin is a guy who finds his way into losses often. I mean, he's not. I feel like he sometimes gets a little overzealous and can almost be his own enemy in that regard. Sometimes, he's very he's always driving. He's very driven towards the finishes, and he's actively seeking them. He leaves himself with openings that are exploitable by better fighters, and Dusko, unfortunately, just not that. I also wanted to mention that when it came to the standing guillotine, when he was trying to get out of that he had to go off the ground with. You ever seen on the playground when like a kid grabs onto the seesaw and like the other side goes up and he has to like dangle his little legs there for a second? That's what it reminded me of. He was. I thought he might have actually gone full over. He could have gotten a full on suplex off of that.
That was an insane moment. I will admit that. But what I will say is this comment was really funny, Carlos. Yes, this was Robert Valentine versus his translator. We'll talk about that. The fight itself was great. Good grappling. Robert Valentine, a staple of jujitsu at middleweight, I think is great. You know, being from Switzerland, he's got and being that guy that he's kind of a little likable. I feel like he might be able to rub off on some people. You know, some people might rub off on him. You know, he's got the coaching ability. You know, so I'm happy to see him going forward. But yes, at the end of this, you had maybe the one of the weirder post fight speeches that you could ever have, because Robert Valentine insists that Dusko translates for him. And this was funny because Dusko clearly did not fucking want to be here.
Well, the funny part to me was that so Michael Bisping is doing the interview, and it starts off. It's Robert Valentine. Dusko is there with him, and Bisping says, "Oh, you're going to have him translate for you, but you speak English." And Valentine's face was like, "No, brother, you don't understand. I've got a plan here of what's going to happen." And so he starts enacting this plan, and it's this like back and forth where Valentine is speaking in English, and then Dusko is translating into Serbian, and the crowd is actually.
Reluctantly translating. He's like, yeah. And so he says this. Yeah.
I mean,
So
yeah, it's like you put him, and like I said, the crowd was into it, so I at least give it to the crowd that they were responding to this. But it's like, I think that for Valentine, it certainly came from a good place. He's saying, saying, "Oh, we're kind of the same guy. Like, we this is just the life we chose. We're brothers, that kind of thing."
We're both
But
white guys. Look at us. We could be brothers, you know?
we're
That's what
basically
I
the
was
same
getting at.
guy. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I shave my head. Look, we're the same guy, you
Yeah,
know?
yes, the same dude. But it's like I understand where it was coming from, but it's like, bro, he just lost the fight. He's in his home country. Let the guy go home, bro. Like, let him get out of here.
But to be fair, he wasn't going to get his moment on TV if Robert Valentin didn't do that. So, 3D chess, 4D, whatever you want to say, Robert Valentin was like, you know what? I just won, but let me give him his moment on TV too. So, the funny part about the ending too is Robert Valentin is talking about this symbol. He's like, this symbol means something in Serbia, and in Switzerland it means, and then you see Dusko. He's like, hey, no, no. No, no, no. And he's like, this guys appreciate you. Good. Have a good one. And Dusko's like, it's this. It's this, brother. And it's like,
Yeah,
that was funny.
that was great because yeah, he was like, he said like, this is the symbol for my country, and then it was just kind of like that was the end of it because he like saw that he shouldn't be saying that or it wasn't the right thing to say or whatever. So yeah, that was definitely Robert Valentin. It's like where people like they when they're coming from a pure place, but they can't help but make it awkward. That's kind
Yeah.
of what it felt like.
It's kind of endearing. It's like, how can you, it's not like you could hate a person for like, it's like, oh, I just got to ignore him. If I don't like it, I'll just let him live his world, bro. I can't even begin to start with this. So
Yeah, absolutely, and it does hurt my heart that Valentine like has kind of gone down some darker political rabbit holes because I do like him a lot as a guy, and hopefully, maybe he will come around to some clearer thoughts on those issues. But either way, this was certainly interesting and funny at the end, and a great win for him. So he certainly needs the wins. He's 13-6. He's hitting that halfway point. So you got to surpass that and keep yourself relevant here. So I certainly am glad that he did that. And Todorovic probably not going to be seen again, I would think.
and shout out our boy in the chat, Yugoslav. Both are
Ah,
good signs. The three fingers pinched is Orthodox Christians use. Okay, I
gotcha.
gotcha.
Okay. And then if you do this one, that's Wolf Pack from back in the day.
Gotcha. And then if you do this one, this is Spock.
That's Star Trek. Yes, I do know that one. So very
Gotcha.
good. Yeah, good win for Valentine here. And yeah, Todorovic. Like I said, I would not suspect him to because I think that I thought I'd seen Bleeding Edge saying that he was already supposed to be cut or had been cut. So I don't know if we'll be seeing much of Dushko going forward.
Well, he had his moment, in his hometown.
That's what I was going to say too. Is like, yeah, you're right. It's like he might not ever get a shot on the big screen again. So nice for him to do that.
Well, I mean, that is, to hang your hat on it. I may not have been the best. I may not have been whatever, but I got to fight in my home country at the biggest stage of them all of mixed martial arts. I mean, you shouldn't be upset at what you've accomplished, is what I would say, Dusko.
And like you said too, I mean, he may not have been the best fighter in this fight, but he was certainly the best Serbian translator in it. So how
Yeah,
about that?
absolutely. Yeah. I again, one more time for Michael Bisping. You both speak English. So
Not right now. We don't.
just shut your fucking mouth. I have a whole thing right now.
Bigger plans at play, but all right, good deal on that fight for Robert Valentine, and that takes us,
Bigger
of course.
plans at play. Oh my goodness.
Let's get into it. This is the co-main event of this. Oh no, excuse me. This is the featured fight. This is Alexander Rakic versus Marcin Tybura. Of course, this is Rakic's debut at heavyweight. Certainly looks like he fits right into the middle of the pack at heavyweight. I mean, this was not the greatest fight on this card. A fine first round, I thought. I mean, Rakic, obviously the more active fighter throughout all of this fight, but definitely in the first round, kicks were still there, great combos, and the movement of a smaller heavyweight was on his side. Tybura just big and lumbering as he always is, but also still durable. He ate a pretty flush head kick in that first round. So, I mean, it started off okay and then kind of rapidly progressed into the heavyweight fight that you expected it to be.
I think we were in the realm of one long round and it slowly got less and less. So it started out. I remember the fight started and all of that hatred that I had for Rakic and bias, it went aside and they said, Rakic, if you're going to win this fight right now, walk right up to Tybura and kick him right in the fucking leg. And you know what he did? He did kick him in the leg for a little bit, but then he stopped. I don't actually know what happened there. Tybura ended up actually just walking him down for a little bit of this fight too. Like it was the leg kicks really didn't amount to anything, so maybe he just gave up. But at heavyweight, that's going to be your main weapon, brother. You need to fucking spam them kicks. That's what you got going, and then you can go high with them.
Well, the issue here, and we had referenced this earlier in a review. I think I had said, the commentary was kind of missing a couple of things during this card. One of the things, I think the biggest thing that they were missing and did not reference it, was the fact that after round one, with the kicks that Rakic was landing, his foot ended up having a balloon on it. I mean, I don't know if you noticed this, Chase, but like his foot, it ended up with a welt that was massive. I mean, like it started off like it was progressively growing over the course of the fight. But you go back and rewatch if you didn't see it. Starts off small. By the end of the fight, it was almost like the entire like width of the top of his foot. So I think that might have slowed him down a little bit. But to be fair, even though commentary didn't say anything about it, his corner also didn't say anything about it. So I was saying maybe it was just like it kind of hit like either like a blood vessel, or maybe hit like it was just the muscle and not the bone or something like that. Because a Bleeding Edge was in the chat, and of course Bleeding Edge has a medical background, and was saying that that looked like it might have been a metatarsal that had some rupture or something like that, and that would be extremely painful, I would suspect. So he didn't seem compromised by it. He ended up going on to the top of the cage at the end of the fight. I think he walked out on his own, but go back and rewatch if you didn't see it. There was a massive welt on Rakic's foot, which I suspect impacted the kicking.
It definitely could have. If it is true that he hurt his foot and he actually did continue the fight, I will give him a little more credit than I was, because this fight wasn't very good. I think we all could have expected it. I think anybody out there knew that this was not going to be fight of the night. We have Mateusz Rombecki on the prelims, but Rakic and fucking Tybura on the main card for shit like this. You know what I'm talking about? Like, so it is definitely unfortunate that these are the fights that we get on the main card. I did not expect Tybura to win, even though I picked him, of course, but I did not expect Rakic to win either. I expected both of these guys to just lose somehow, and they deserve to with a performance like this, to be fair. But listen, if Rakic is not going to be able to just tee off on a guy like Tybura at his heavyweight debut, if he's not able to stumble him, if he's not able to kick his legs out from under him, if he's not able to establish anything against him, he ain't gonna make it in heavyweight. Tyrell Fortune, at least, he at least had some success against Tybura. Now Rakic won 30-27, but sure, he just stayed on the outside and punched him and kicked him a little bit, but it wasn't even really that crazy of a performance. He could have
Yeah.
done 10 times more.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, after round one, I mean, really, round one was the biggest successes of the fight, and they were all on Rakic's side. After round one, no urgency on either side. I would say that both were at least consistent in their own way. Rakic was consistently putting shots out that weren't really very effective, at least touch shots, and Tybura was consistent in not doing anything. So that's basically the dynamic of what you had for the rest of this. I thought it was interesting hearing Rakic's corner telling him that he was going to lose the fight going into the third round, because I was like, he's up 2 rounds. I mean, I'm all for it. I'm all for the motivation of the corner. And I would have liked to see him turn up. I would have liked to have seen him go in there and finish the fight, of course. But both guys gassed by the third round, as you expect for a heavyweight fight. Rakic holding on to the clinch for a very long time. There was also a moment here. I also wanted to mention another classic Kerry Hatley moment. In round two, Rakic swiped Tybura's eyes. He ended up kind of, grazing it, not really full on poke, but grazed his eyes. And then he said on commentary, Kerry Hatley said it was a punch. They showed it on the replay. Of course, it was not a punch. It's like, how many ways can this guy possibly suck?
Yeah, no, it was a bad one. He raked him pretty hard. Yeah,
Yeah, it
and
was a
and
solid
I
rake.
I love I love that one too. It was like, no, it's a punch, and then the commentary, Kerry Hatley says it's a punch, and then we get the little fucking picture in picture thing.
Yeah,
Love it.
it was like Arrested Development. It's like Kerry Hatley says it's a punch. It was not a punch.
It was not.
But yeah, so but like you said, kind of one long round that sort of petered off towards the end of it. Again, I do think that Rakic's foot was compromised to an extent. Definitely go back and look at how big the balloon was on his foot if you didn't see it. But other than that, I mean, really not too much else to say. And Rakic celebrating this win like it was the greatest win of his career. It's like, I mean, it was certainly a necessary win, but to think that this is now somehow a new leaf that you've turned over, I've always said that Rakic was overvalued. I mean, that's kind of been my assessment of him for a long time now. And going into heavyweight, he will be middle of the pack at best.
Well, the last thing that I'll say is it may be a record. This might be the shortest fight that we might have talked at the least amount of this fight right now that we have ever talked about a fight, and that is a great thing. There should be no conversation made for a fight after this. You shouldn't pay any attention to it. Nobody should go rewatch it. Nobody should pay a mind to anybody like Rakic or Tybura after a performance like this. They don't deserve it. Rakic, again, you're talking about how him, celebrating like this was the greatest thing of life. Obviously in Serbia, he's Serbian by way of Austria or something like that, whatever you want to say. Hats off to him. But brother, this fight was not good enough. Like, come on, brother. Why did you go to heavyweight if you're not going to be able to perform at the highest level anymore? Like, you beat Tybura, sure, but like, you're obviously not going to be like a god amongst men here. So I don't know, crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, beating Tybura is the barrier to entry. I mean, it's the bare minimum, and that's what you should take away from this fight. Is that, I mean, yeah, you did what you were supposed to do in beating Tybura. That's as easy as the fights are going to get at heavyweight. It really, I mean, and that's the bar is low at heavyweight, of course. So you probably have similar fights potentially. But Thomas Peterson will give you a better fight than that. I mean, Thomas Peterson just lost. I mean, you start getting into anybody higher up than that, even. I mean, fucking Walter will heel hook you. You get into anything higher than that, Hoke will fucking tear your goddamn head off with a performance like that. Like, I do want to put a little bit more emphasis on the foot potentially being hurt. So maybe there is more for him that was not being able to be shown because of that. I'll be a little bit more generous, but barring that, that's really all that I have to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Good deal. Then that brings us to the co-main event of this card, which of course was Jan Blachowicz versus Navajo Sterling. And I want to start off by saying, I am not happy that I told you so when it comes to this, but this is for not for you, Chase, but for anybody out there who was getting on my case about the thoughts that I had. There is no disrespect that I have for Jan Blachowicz. I am a Jan Blachowicz fan. I was a Jan Blachowicz fan years ago and still am to this day. It is about recognizing realities. It is about recognizing that the man is 43 years old. It is about recognizing that he had 2 shoulder surgeries. And it is about recognizing that he has not been the caliber of fighter that he once was after coming back from those surgeries. So I think that like a lot of people were almost thinking of Jan Blachowicz the same way that they were thinking about Conor McGregor. Some people who were riding with Conor, they're looking at him through a lens of a fighter who is no longer there. And I think that it showed a lot in this fight. Navajo Sterling is an up and coming dude. I mean, this was probably one of the better performances we've seen from him where he actually took a straight line to the finish. Because, of course, that was my other note. Navajo Sterling circumnavigating to get to finishes often. This was a pretty solid straight line to it. Maybe he started to shore up some of his holes because his trajectory is going up. And you have to be okay with recognizing that Jan Blachowicz is on the downswing.
Dude, this fight, obviously we both picked Navajo, so we were very excited to see this happen. For him to get an emphatic win against somebody of this caliber is big for his career. But I'm not gonna lie to you, this was one of the hardest ones to watch, because and I feel like this is what people who love Robert Whitaker, I feel like this is what they feel like, when
Yeah.
for some reason, when Jan, they're in the stand up, and gosh, credit to Navajo, the setup to this strike. He came in, pulled his parry hand down, and just stuck him with one. Jan goes flying across the cage because Navajo shoves him after, which was, listen, I love a good shove. I love a good and throw your opponent off balance after, just get him in the mix, whatever. So Jan Blachowicz goes down, and obviously you're already like, you're in awe already, like, oh my God, he knocked him down. No, 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 no. And then the ground and pound starts. And the ground and pound, if he would have just flatlined him with a couple strikes, okay, that's one thing. But I feel like you saw the defeat in Jan's eyes once this big ass elbow just fucking cut him open. Like you saw that, you saw the end there. It was like, oh no, no, we've never seen Jan like this. He's not gonna be able to recover from this right now. Like it was a bad cut, great stoppage, great finish. Jan, he was not prepared for this. He ain't never had to be. He had always held up. So for Navajo to just land one of the cleanest. Listen, Israel Adesanya could not even land something like this. Navajo Sterling, you know, with his light heavyweight, excuse me, gosh, with his light heavyweight power, he is able to just crack people. And goddamn, Jan Blachowicz is a dude who is able. I don't know if it's necessarily just the chin itself, or if he's able to roll punches, or if he's able to, do whatever wizardry he does. But that night he didn't. And Navajo landed something so crazy, sent him flying across the cage. And then it was just the mixture of that, of course, with the ground and pound. And the ground and pound was not only effective, but it was exactly what needed to be done to get that fight over with. Navajo, that I feel like, with the Ivan Urslan fight, he knocked him down a couple times, but they ended up getting there. Cutelaba, I saw Cutelaba really kind of throw it in there. This one right here, I was like, oh, Navajo's got that switch. He really went for it. He saw the opportunity and he said, I cannot let Jan get through this one. So
And that's what I was getting at before too, where it's like, look, we have watched Navajo Sterling. Navajo Sterling is 11-0. He's 11 fights in.
mm,
We've watched him from Contender Series to now learn on the job. We've watched him develop now. This is what you saw in that fight is I mean, I wouldn't even say it's the culmination, but it's the culmination, at least at that point, of the previous experiences now informing where he has gotten to. And to talk about that strike that he landed, I often describe it as when you sail a shot through your opponent's face. That's exactly what, I mean, to a T, that's exactly what that was. Straight right, directly through Jan's face, dropped him with that. And then, of course, the push was nice as well with that. What a land, I said there. And then, like you had said, Chase, the elbows on the ground. I mean, because what's always crazy to me is with elbows, the slicing elbows specifically, where you see the land and you viscerally know the impact is there, but then it's that little delayed reaction, and then the blood just starts. And it's like, this was a bad, I don't know if you saw the image of Jan afterwards that it was going around of the cut, how big the cut was. I mean, it certainly showed with how much blood was coming out. This was just a gusher that came out of his face, crazy amount of blood. There was, like you said, there was no coming back from it for Jan after this. Navajo has graduated here. I mean, and also had to go through his own little adversity. Let's not forget that too. He almost got dropped. He didn't go fully down, but he got dazed for a moment there. So, bloodied his nose up. He had the bloody nose going into the later part of that round. And he was able to stay the course and do what he did. So I think that Navajo Sterling has ascended. And I know that there are people who don't like city kickboxing and don't like this guy, whatever their reasons are, but you got to recognize facts here. I mean, the kid is slick and he's got some nice hands.
well, the thing is too, you're talking about, we've been watching his whole career develop. This guy was 4-0 when he went to the Contender Series and won. So 5-0 when he started his career. He's won 6 straight. I would argue this has been the most, and obviously this isn't even the organization that has done this, because Navajo's been the one calling his shots. He's been saying who he wants and he's been getting who he wants. He has had a very handcrafted, and not by the organization. Like I said, he did this himself. He's been the one making it happen. He's been the one walking the walk, talking the talk. His rise through the organization has been almost as good as it gets for a prospect. When you think of a prospect, it's like, man, I want him to be active. I want him to be knocking people out, finishing people, getting better, of course. But the people that he's stepping up against now, like, he was fighting Tukos, guys. Now he just beat Jan Blachowicz by first round knockout. Like, he is something, like I said with Stephanie Luciano, like, just keep her active. Doesn't have to be anything too crazy. Navajo was in that mix. Like, it's like, okay, let's just keep him active. Let's give him what he wants. Let's see if he can compete. And then he kept doing it. And now you give him somebody like Jan and he finishes him. Listen, remember, this was a short notice fill in, and this guy came out and finished Jan Blachowicz in the first round. If that doesn't say he's one of the top performers in that whole division, then I don't know what does.
I mean, you're firing on all cylinders, Chase, making great points here. It's true. It's absolutely true. One thing I also wanted to bring up too, because it reminded, I didn't even see, because you don't see it anymore, but it reminded me. This is another thing that informs you as to how Navajo has just developed into a better fighter over time, like basically before our eyes. Do you remember that Navajo Sterling used to have like a nervous tick where
We
he would
used to wipe his nose a little bit. Yeah.
it only reminded me because when his nose was bloody, he touched the blood. I mean, not obviously your nose is bloody, you touch the blood, but it was a mental thing to go back to it because I was like, we don't see that from him anymore. He has fixed that problem. He
Yeah.
is getting better. He is developing. This is exactly what you want to see. And as you very rightly pointed out, he's crafting his own career by the nature of being the better fighter over time and then calling for the better fight and actually rising to that occasion time and time again. The development of Navajo Sterling is going swimmingly right now. And again, like I said, I know that there are people that don't like him. I remember in the watch along, our friend Dino Bam Bam from 10-7 was saying, "Oh, I don't like city kickboxing." I'm like, you can like him, not like him, do however you feel. You're going to have to respect it. He's making you have to respect it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's plenty of opportunities for Navajo in the light heavyweight division. He caught up Paulo Costa, right? Paulo Costa. And I think that works perfectly for him. That's a dude with a big name. They can make a pretty banger, if they get a press conference spot, I think that would go very well for him. I think Navajo is a guy that he doesn't come off like a very outwardly spoken, like you wouldn't think that he'd be out here talking his shit, but he's very confident. I think if Paulo kind of pokes the bear, I think Navajo not necessarily going to snap back, but I think he'll be his cool, calm, collected self, and he might gain some aura points off a moment like this. Not never spooked, of course, and always willing. I think Navajo, like I said, called his shots. He's been getting what he wants. He even spun back around to Cutelaba when that shit didn't happen. So whoever wants it at the top of the division, if you don't think it's happening now, later is still possible. So
Yeah, and it is light heavyweight that is in desperate need of this type of overhaul, so it can't happen soon enough. And Navajo Sterling being on the new wave of it makes me very happy.
and for what are we saying next? Is Jan Blachowicz going to fight Gregory Popik, or are we thinking that's just a too big of a jump for my guy?
Oh man, what's next for Jan? I think that if Jan is really one of these guys that is just dead set on continuing to fight, it does have to be a significantly lower opponent. I would say that if we're going to still keep him with ranked competition, it has to be basically somewhere within the 13 to 15 range. If not, I mean, I would say that it would be a pretty tremendous slap in the face to have him fighting unranked competition like now, but one or two more losses and it's not out of the equation.
Well, my thing is do you want to see him in positions like this more, or is this the final time you want to see Jan go against that hot prospect? Like, is this the final of that? Because what I'm thinking now is like I'm like, okay, we saw Jan versus Izzy, and it didn't go Izzy's way because he was stepping up to a different weight class or whatever. Robert Whitaker is available in this weight class. Why can't we? Why don't we do Jan versus Robert Whitaker? How's this sound? Anybody?
I mean, I'm not against it, but I really think this goes back to my initial point that the Jan Blachowicz that we remember as the guy who stands and makes those kinds of fights like something that are competitive, I just don't feel is there anymore. I mean, he's 43, right? Is that
Mm-hmm.
correct? 43 years old. I mean, there's no shame in hanging it up at this point, man. He's a former champion. He's completed his arc. He's reached the pinnacle. Like you've done what you needed to do, Jan Blachowicz. You will never lose your fan base. I don't care how many times he loses. I will always be a fan of the guy. So just I would consider probably, at least if you're going to wind down, maybe go out on a win, against a lower level guy. I think even a Robert Whitaker might be too much at this point. I know that sounds crazy because both the guys are a little bit on the later end, but I don't, maybe I'm wrong. And I know that a lot of people want me to be wrong. And I also would like to be wrong about that. If Jan can come back and get a win against somebody decent, fair enough. I'm going back to my initial point, recognizing the reality.
No, I definitely agree with you, but the reality that we get to recognize is actually a pretty good one because the light heavyweight division has Navajo Sterling in it, and I go back to it because I do feel like if you go back to a few fights ago, I was probably saying that I'm just not seeing it yet, but I will have to admit, guys, I have seen all that I need to from Navajo Sterling. This dude's got it. He's got it.
That's exactly it, and it developed over time, and that is one of the greatest joys of following the sport closely is watching that type of thing happen, where you see somebody go from a good formative prospect, shore up the holes in the game, get better, consistency there. Like it really, I mean, it really is. I'm telling you, not to be sentimental about it, but it was one of the joys of the sport for me is following as closely as we do is seeing something like this happen. So I am all in.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, then that does bring us right to the main event of this thing. And what a main event it was. Of course, Serbia had been down on the card for a little while here. And, a couple of regional guys, and I mean, not just Serbia, but guys of the region, a couple of losses coming into this main event. But Uros Medic fought Daniel Rodriguez to turn the ship around for the hometown. And he did it very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, the best part about this card really was when you started locking into the main card and you did get the Daniel Rodriguez promos and you start getting the commercials with, with him talking about the story. And it truly is inspirational. Like, it is crazy to think that, because they actually had when you started the main card, they had a promo package that was like a chopped up version of what we watched earlier in the card. There was a long extended version, and there was a part where he said he was in like a holding cell for like 13 days, and when he saw the judge, he said, "Come back in 2 months," and he was like, "I realized then, like I'm fucked, guys." Like, and that was really like crazy to hear because like I'm like, damn, you hear all these stories about all other countries and how things can go down and what can happen, and it sounded like really bad, so I feel like it was inspirational to think that like, oh, he just got out of prison off of something that really wasn't even like a blah 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 blah, here he is, he's been training, but unfortunately this is not a fairy tale. We don't live in the world where you could just come out of prison for 8 months and then just run the fucking mixed martial arts world. People have been training their asses off for this moment. They have been waiting for their main event spot. They have been guaranteed that they would headline that card. And so Uros Medic, I think, is just a byproduct of being ready, staying ready, and knowing that your time's going to come. Like, your card is coming up. You have been told you're the headline. You just got to find an opponent, and you're a striker. All you got to do, hone in hone in on your skills, because whoever's going to come across you, what you have to do is just obliterate them in the first round. So I don't know. I thought that, God damn, I cannot stop. Go ahead. Let me drink
Well,
some.
yeah. No, I mean, look, I certainly agree that the Mexican prison story is very compelling, and it's very interesting. I still have not listened to the podcast that he did with Dom Cruz yet to hear all of the intimate details of it, but the video package was, again, compelling and interesting. Um, I don't think that that is a good enough excuse in my book. He's been out. He's supposed to be a main event fighter. If he's gotten this call up, why did you put him in this main event for this to be how this outcome was? If not to have the hometown guy just get this easy, quick victory. I don't think that it should have been that. What I had said was that Daniel Rodriguez, all he needed to do was survive for 2 minutes and 30 seconds. He needed to make it to the halfway point of round number 1, and then the dynamics would have been different. Uros Medic is a kill or be killed fighter. We talk about this all the time. He is a killable fighter because of that. So all you have to do is wait out the early aggression and get him into the place that you want him. Rodriguez only able to last the 30 seconds. Really unfortunate to me. I would have thought that, like, if you had even done a modicum of research on Uros Medic, you would have known. Now, I understand Rodriguez is not some kind of, a world-class wrestler over here, but you are the bigger guy. Go in there, bear hug him, and try to get him to the ground, at least to tire him out a little bit. Wear his arms down. Do something aside from trying to stand with this guy who is obliterating opponents if you let him. It really bothered me for that. I say people talk about the Uros Medic side of this, and it certainly is great. That's what Uros Medic does. This is not surprising to me. The story to me is the Rodriguez side thinking that he could stand with him in the early part of this fight. Game plan was off.
Game plan was definitely off. I mean, but it is one of those things again where, what if he did just eat that flurry? Like, he probably was going to win that fight. It's one of those, you just got to find out for yourself. He fucked around and found out for sure. Medic came out with a crazy combo, lit him up, kneed him in the stomach, kicked him while he was down. Let's be fair. I think this was Jason Herzog again.
I believe so.
He was ready to stop this fight. He
Oh,
was
yeah.
ready to get a first round finish from Medic, because Daniel Rodriguez wasn't even laying on the mat for not even 2 milliseconds before he was ready to stop this. Like, again, he probably wasn't going to get up. Maybe he would have. We've seen crazier things, but all I know is that in the hometown of Serbia, they wanted to go out on a bang, and Jason Herzog, he knew what he had to do, brother.
Yeah, I mean, and what a bang it was. The Serbian crowd pop for Medic was wild, man. They went fucking nuts for him, to the point where, I don't know if you saw it, Chase. They set off a flare inside in an indoor venue, which to me seems very dangerous and something I would really not be comfortable with.
Well, what I'll say to that is I'm just going to give a little spoiler that there may be a video coming out, and if yes, you did see the flare, there might be both angles of us where we react to the holy shit, there's a flare in this fucking building. So just keep that in mind, everybody.
I like it. Well, I mean, as fight aside, obviously it was very quick. There's really not too much to talk about. Rodriguez landed the one kick, and that was about it. the rest of it I had to say is just after the fight. I mean, how do you not like Uros Medic? He seems like such a good dude. I mean, he's just a really quality individual. We on your show, The Street Word, we're listening to a little bit of him talk. He seems like a pretty intelligent guy to me as well. You know, I fuck with the guy. And then his call out of Leon Edwards, I was like, that's a pretty solid call out, honestly. I mean, going up against a former champ, even if he is kind of on the tail end there, nice win, nice notch in the belt, getting that kind of a win. I think it's a very appropriate call out and puts him right in the equation if he gets that win.
Now, Medic, I know you want Leon Edwards, but he's going to be saved for probably another finisher. I don't know. Maybe it might be him. I mean, they do want to see Leon Edwards get slimed out for some reason. But either way, Uros Medic, what I would want from you as I look at the rankings right here, I'm looking at the number 6 spot right here. That's not too crazy of a jump because you're now at number 10. You've jumped 4 spots. Gabriel Bonfim, he just got beat on the feet by Stephen Wonderboy Thompson 2 fights ago, arguably almost lost. If you let that dude, and he thinks he's good on the feet too. Remember that he beat up Bilal for 5 rounds, laughing at him, goofing off. Knocked his mouthpiece out and just laughed at him. He thinks he's good on the feet. He's got a good low kick. That's what I'll give him. But I think Medic, you gotta rid us of the Bonfim, bro. Please.
I like it. Yeah, no, I'm okay with that too. But the problem is, and this is what I would really like have people understand about this is just to don't get too overconfident with Uros Medic. I mean, like I think that this was a great performance, and he has been winning his fights recently. He's been a little bit more consistent than times past. But this is a guy who goes balls to the wall and has gotten knocked out several times because of that. So Bonfim, maybe not the guy to do that. It didn't seem like he had tremendous power in his hands, but Balal is pretty durable himself. So just, you call for a fight like that, even with a fight like Leon Edwards. I mean, like, he still could kick him in the head. I mean, there are still ways to beat this guy, and he is a beatable guy when he gets touched. So just always keep that in mind.
Well, the thing that I will say also about Medic, and this is the unfortunate part, is Medic has a key loss that he took on short notice. Fine, that's fair. It's got him into the organization, and here he is now. But Miktabek Orabay is at his weight class again. So the rematch is going to have to happen eventually. And I don't know what to tell you guys, but I know my boy Miktabek, and I know he's going to come out here and get another dub. But we'll leave it at that for now.
Just octopus the fuck out of him. But
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, either way, we'll see what the organization does with him. But in this moment, man, he got the very quick victory. He got the amazing crowd pop in Serbia. The crowd going nuts for him. It was quite a moment there in Belgrade, and props to him. I mean, this is a guy who has put the work in. He's been in the organization. He's been taking fights. He's been calling his shots. He's good on the mic as well. I mean, he's a guy who will really go out there and say what's on his mind. And he's got, some pretty good mic skills. He knows the right things to say at the right times. I really don't see much not to like about Uros Medic.
No, me neither. He's pretty fun. I liked hearing his little interviews on the Street Word, of course, which you guys should definitely check out. But
Absolutely. So good win for him here. And that does take us to the end of this card. So after talking it through, Chase, all these finishes out there in Serbia, UFC Fight Night, Medic versus Rodriguez. What are your final thoughts on this thing?
a lot of people were upset that like, oh, a lot of finishes doesn't mean that it's a good card because they want they want competition. They want the highest level of the sport. And like I get that. And obviously not all finishes are equal. Sometimes there could be something that ruins it, referee stoppage or, just stupid stuff in general. But for the most part, I think personally, all of these stoppages were pretty fulfilling. There was some, obviously with Lecca where it's like, damn, he didn't do anything until it, but hey, that one time he did it, I guess it worked out, so things like that. I feel like nothing really. Kerry Hatley definitely had me upset for a few times, but when it come to the stoppages, I feel like for what we got, these were not like just stomps. Like they weren't just walk in and get it done. Like these were competitive up until they weren't, kind of deal, or freak stuff was going on. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, with the exception of the Bogdangrad issue, with the Phantom Tap,
Mm.
that would be the only one that really sticks out to me. Even the Kerry Hatley stuff, as annoying as it is, I'm like, pick your battles. Like, I mean, how
Yes.
I guess to the point where I'm like, how upset can I be on a consistent basis? I yell about mixed martial arts on this channel all the goddamn time. I got to be a little bit more selective, or I won't have any vocal cords left. So yeah, overall, I thought this was great. Honestly, I really, I mean, especially also coming off of Abu Dhabi, which was, really one of the lower points of this year. I thought this was a really fun one. I had a really good time with this. All the finishes I thought were pretty satisfying for the most part, and good stuff, good people winning as well a couple of times here too. So I was happy about all that. A couple of little lower points at times, but really not too. It wasn't consistently downswinging. So I was happy with this. I'd say that this was one of the better cards this year.
Absolutely. I like this.
Good deal. Well, then that is a good deal indeed. But that is yes. Oh yeah.
Let's
I'll go
let's go
ahead.
ahead and run over the numbers. And
Ah,
just to clarify, we did not make our picks on Milos versus Noah Gungnan on the show and or after the show. So it is blanked out. That is the one fight that we just don't have a tally for, but that's okay. Special circumstances. So let me make sure I got that. So out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So 13 of the fights I had gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 correct. Thinker had gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 correct. God damn it. You cannot catch a break, man. So
neck and neck.
the totals, man, we are coming in on 200 picks for the year. So I am at 198 correct. You are at 178 correct. Whew.
Golly, and it's like even on weeks where we pick differently, somehow this ends up happening. But yeah, I mean that's just the way that it goes, and it is a credit to my co-host Chase because he is very good at predicting fights, and that's how well I take it in stride because I know that I am rocking with the best. How about that?
Hell yeah. This will be a good one.
Yes, and of course, I mean, obviously, this is the week that I'm going to go perfect, and this is the week that I will gain all of the ground. So,
Yes.
it'll work out in the end. I mean, don't worry about this. That brings us to the upcoming fight night, which, of course, is back in the Apex, which I'm sure everybody's happy about. This is UFC Fight Night Gamrot versus Salkilld. Yes, yes, Chase.
Brace yourself.
For this
This
card.
is Oh yeah, just wait till you start scrolling.
Oh, I know. I mean, off rip. I'm not. I mean, I'm not even happy about this main event. So if this gets worse, I'm not even surprised at all. Of course, I don't do a ton of research on these cards ahead of time when we are going to talk them through. That's part of the fun is to be able to talk it through and come to conclusions with Chase. So yeah, we'll find out together just how bad this is. But starting it off in the main event of this card is Mateusz Gamrot versus Quillen Salkilld. Chase, I know that you ride with Mateusz Gamrot. You are a supporter. You've been a fan of the gamer for a while. Do you think he is going to be able to beat Quillen Salkilld?
I think what is key is that Gamrot is a very disciplined fighter. He is able to be boring and win. He is able to just stay the course and get it done. Now, the thing about Quillen is I've said this before, and this is the testament for him being such a great fighter, is even in the moments when the fight is not going his way, he just makes it happen. He's just the fight's over. So I think for me to and I've always believed that Quillen, he struggles, but he just pulls it out his ass, and that's just what happens to great fighters sometimes. So I think Gamrot is gonna have success. I think what worries me is that Gamrot really took a beating from Dan Hooker, somehow. But Quillen, if he's taken out of his game, and Gamrot is able, listen, Gamrot doesn't have that many losses. And the first person to ever submit him was Charles Oliveira, and Charles Oliveira is undefeated in that country. So I don't know what to say. I'm going to take Gamrot though, because I do believe that the gamer he can get this done. He can make a big upset.
All right, so let me say my thought process here. So I agree with you. Gamrot will drag a fight out with consistent quality in his navigation. That's if I have a compliment to give to Mateusz Gamrot is that he is technically proficient to the point that he will, like, if a fight is trying to start going in a different direction, he will pull it back into the lane he wants it to be in. That I think is one of the bigger credits to him. Like, fighters think that they have a game plan. He says, no, this is how this fight is going to go. However, this is a 5-round fight. And Quillen Salkilld is also a person. It's like two opposite magnets over here, where it's like he is the person to drag the fight into his lane. So if you're going to fight the way that Gamrot does, you're going to have to do it for all 25 minutes. And that is, I think, the Achilles heel of this whole thing is that I believe that with Mateusz Gamrot, I just don't think he's going to be able to make this his fight for the entirety of it. Getting a finish over Quill and Salkilld does not seem likely to me from Gamrot, at least not off of knowing both fighters. That being said, I think it gives Quillen a lot of opportunity to find a way to make it his fight somehow, some way, somewhere.
The most interesting thing is when you look at Quillen versus Benil, there was a moment where Benil had success. It actually went more than 12 seconds, but what BSD was able to do to him, and we know what BSD, we know the level that he's at. Obviously, it's different from, decision making to shot power, but Quillen, it took him a moment to adjust with Benil, and then he was able to find the shot on somebody who can't take the shot anymore. I don't think Gamrot is going to let Quillen have the opportunity to figure it out. It's going to be the fight's going to start, and we're going to be standing, and then boom, I'm shooting for a takedown, and now we're grappling, and now you're going to have 2 rounds of that to start. So we'll see how it goes for Quillen. I do, I don't know if it was a different person. If it was a different prospect, I probably still would take Gamrot. This is nothing against Quillen. I have just personally thought that, for some reason it is not there, but then it is, but it always can't just be on a whim. There's got to be a way that you consistently rack up your wins. And Gamrot has his method. The Gamrot playbook is in effect. So,
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, the playbook is something that he does not deviate from, which in his case, I think is actually a strong suit. I mean, if you got a working strategy and you can consistently pull it off, then don't fix what ain't broken. I'm going to go with Quill and Salkilld here, though. I think that he is going to be able, like I said, I think he's going to be able to drag something out somewhere because, like, if and I mean, Quill and Salkilld coming from his team, you'd think that I mean, like, these guys hopefully have done the research. I'm hoping that there is an understanding of what Gamrot brings to this equation because it is slightly predictable, I would say. I mean, what you just outlined, that's every Gamrot fight. So if you go into it knowing that that's the case, the only thing that is the problem is if you don't have a strategy or an answer for that to counteract it. I hope that they have something in the playbook for it. I hope that they have something that is going to be able to at least chip away at the armor and over the course of this fight find the opening to make it his fight. If this ends up being where Gamrot is just smothering him for 25 minutes, I certainly will feel foolish. I just don't think that that's going to be the case here. I think that Quillen will figure out a way to turn this into his fight. If it's not in the first 2 rounds, then by round 3, something starts to give.
all right. And if anybody out there is listening, make sure that you know that we are picking our picks and we are keeping track of them, and they're going to be on each of our individual channels. So make sure you like whoever's channel you think has the better picks. Or if you don't want to make it a competition, just like both of our channels and just watch the rest of the video. So
I mean, that's really the Chad move is just to do both. But yes, I mean, also, whoever's picks are better, definitely rock with them harder.
now please take a look at this co-main event.
All right. Co-main event is really Diego Ferreira versus Billy Quarantillo. Wow. That's a co-main event fight, huh? Yeah, you can't tell me that this card gets lower than, I mean, what could possibly be under this if this is a co-main event?
Oh, don't you worry, you're gonna find out. No, this one is really easy, and I think for the rest of these ones, like I don't know if there's much discussion to be had. I mean, Billy just got knocked unconscious by Cub Swanson a couple times ago, but Diego is the only dude that I know that knocked out Rebechki. I didn't see it with my own eyes, but it's on the stat sheet. He's got a TKO against Mateusz Rebechki. So he must be heavy-handed enough to knock that dude unconscious. So Billy Quarantino, that's what we're going with. Anyway, this dude, is he moving up a weight class? It's at lightweight now. I see 146 on his thing. So yeah, he probably just gets slumped again at a higher weight. So
Yeah, tracks to me. I always liked Billy Q. Hometown guy. You were talking about the Cub Swanson knockout. I was there in person to witness that. like I said, he's a dude that I've always kind of had he's got a place in my heart as a person who I've seen fight many, many times, but he's always kind of just been a little bit lacking there. So really doesn't take much for me to get swayed against Billy Q at this point. I've seen him lose too many times. I also don't recall Diego Ferreira having that knockout over Rombechki, but that certainly does track if as something that you should latch onto compared to what Billy Q has already seen, what he's already experienced. I'll go with the thought process on that. And it sucks because, like I said, I do like Billy Q, but I mean, this is a guy like I remember when Billy Q fought Yusuf Zalal, and Yusuf Zalal just did like it when he was first coming back into the UFC, took his back, ragdolling him all over the place. It was a masterful performance for Yusuf Zalal in his like first or second fight back in the UFC after having already been cut. That's not what you want as the thing that people remember. Your losses stand out more than your victories, and that is unfortunately problematic.
Diego has 7 subs and he's never been subbed. I mean, Billy Q's got 5 and been subbed once. I mean, I I don't know what I would say is going to happen here, but I would take Diego by finish. I would not go all in on the KO.
How many knockouts does Billy Q have?
Billy Q has 8 knockouts, been knocked out 3 times.
And all right, I mean, then I would say that if this does turn into a striker's affair, maybe there's an opportunity for him there if he can catch Diego slipping. That would be a possibility. If he's not going to be trying to make this a grappling match, I would suspect. At least, I mean, it wouldn't seem likely, and it's also not his strong suit. So I would expect both these guys to probably try to keep it standing, and if that's what it's going to be, then I think Diego probably takes that.
Hell yeah.
All right. So we're both in lockstep on that one.
We're both going Diego.
I
All right.
think so. Yes, indeed. All right. Well, I mean, okay, this should have been your co-main event right here. Come on, dude. My guy, my dude, the OG Yama Bleeder logo himself, Darren Elkins, is going up against the Cuban problem, Yadier Del Valle, of course, one half of the gambling problem with Isaac Dolgarian, of course. This actually is not a terrible fight. I think that this is a better fight than the last one we were just talking about, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts here, Chase?
Come on. Yadier is going to smash this dude. I mean, there's no
Uh,
chance. With
Darren
Darren
Elk,
Elkins, he fell to a jab in his last fight, and it didn't even hit him. It like fluffed his hair, and he fell over.
he looked in his last fight like he was underwater.
Yeah.
I don't like it. Almost is like bizarre. If you go back and watch the last fight of Darren Elkins, like he was moving at a speed that the rest of the world was not moving at. Like, you ever seen a movie where like it's like an effect that they'll do where like the characters are high and the rest of the world is moving at normal pace and they're moving at like a quarter speed. Like, that is what it felt like with Darren Elkins. It felt like he was moving at a quarter speed in that fight. It was very strange. He is at the tail end of his career, most assuredly. I'm kind of surprised that he is still fighting at any capacity at this point. Yadier Del Valle, a 12-year age gap as well. A guy who's much hungrier and on the come up. Yeah, this is a pretty easy fight to predict.
Well, the thing that you have to take note is that Yadier only has 2 KOs on his record, so he is a wrestler. I mean, he's not a guy that's just going to go smash Darren Elkins. So submission is what I would say likely, unless this is going to be his coming out party. The thing is, Yadier, if I was somebody who was like, all right, this is a dude who needs to navigate his career properly. You're a grappler, you're a wrestler. Let's establish yourself as a guy who can finish if need be. We give you Darren Elkins, go ahead and whoop his ass. But Yadier Devalle, for him not being in the know-it-all that Jordan Leviat wasn't Isaac Dolgarian, it doesn't lead me to believe that he's kind of going to be ahead of the, he might just go in here and wrestle this dude and, get a sub or whatever. But I don't think he's thinking ahead of the curve. I don't think same with Jordan Levitt. I don't think he thought that people are actually good in this organization or something. So I question stuff like that, but I think he's going to get this one done easily.
Yeah, I mean, barring some kind of weird wonkiness, which I don't anticipate in this fight necessarily, I mean, come on, man. I mean, Darren Elkins is 29-12 at this point. It's been a long road for Darren Elkins, and as much as I do love him, I was very happy to get to see him win live. You know, he's to me, he will always be a fan favorite because I am always a fan. So I wish the best for him, and I would love to see him win here. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yep, I agree.
All right, next up. Okay, I mean this also not. I think you're underselling this card a little bit, Chase. This isn't a terrible fight. Amanda Lemos versus Alexia Thayanara. It's another one-sided fight, but I would suspect, unless Alexia Thayanara is thinking that she's all of a sudden a striker, like this should be a pretty easy, take her down and submit her kind of situation. Amanda Lemos, more primarily a striker and also on the tail end of her career. I mean, this isn't terrible.
I think this one is actually a pretty good one because the thing about Alexia Thayanara, yeah, she's very aggressive and she will push a finish. Amanda Lemos, though, she doesn't get finished that often. I mean, she took 250 strikes from Wei Lee, never got submitted, never got TKO'd, and she didn't do a damn thing back. So the
I say, but does she win though?
No, but that's not the point. No, the point is she can get the fight back to the feet. She gets the second round started, we're back to the feet.
Okay.
Thayanara against Bruna Brazil, she was just slowing up. Now she actually finished the fight very strong. She had that. I think Bruna landed a really big shot on her at the end, and she ate that shit. She looked good, but she started to slow up. I think Lemos has this very good ability, stay calm, collected, weather the storm, and then she actually is able to push for finishes. I don't think she's going to get one. What I see is Thayanara winning round 1 and 2, Lemos having a good big comeback in the third round where she doesn't get a finish. So I'm gonna take Thayanara on this one, but I think Lemos might be counted out a little more than people are thinking.
I know that you ride with Lemos, decently, and I understand the reasoning behind it. Like I've always thought that Lemos, even at the tail end, which she certainly is at, I think that she is one of the better female strikers in the big picture. Like, her in her prime probably would do a lot better than she has gotten to. But I just think that Thayanara, the big difference to me is that the base of gravity on Thayanara, like her bodily composition is a lot more prone to the attack strategy that she has. She wears her weight correctly for what she brings to a fight. And that I think lends itself better to her having her way more often. Because you are right. I think that Lemos might be able to get it back to the feet. Next round starts back on the feet, but then it's a constant cycle that she's going to be going through of having to defend, get back up, try to land another takedown attempt. And if you just keep repeating the cycle long enough, eventually the clock just runs out and you don't have any time to actually get your own offense off. And that I think is basically how this fight goes. I'm not opposed to the thought process that she can come back and have a good third, but it's going to be a lot of the up down game for those first two if she does make it that far.
100%. Yeah, this one, I like this fight, but it is going to be interesting.
Yeah, so you going with Thayanara then, or
I'm going with Thayanara, yes.
yes, as am I. Okay, good deal. All right, next up. All right, this is not awful, not great, but not awful. This is Ty Miller versus Billy Ray Goff. I mean, I don't know. Ty Miller is Contender Series guy,
Yep.
wrestling based, right?
No, striker.
No. Yeah, no, right. Yes, yeah. He reminds me of that other guy. The not what's that Gage. He reminds me of Gage Young, but he's not Gage Young.
Hmm.
Yes. Okay. So striker Ty Miller, Billy Ray Goff, a dude has been finished a couple of times in the organization. Do you have any strong thoughts about this? How this goes?
Yeah, Ty Miller's going to come in here and have a good performance. I've already predicted his career very well. I said he should come into his debut against Adam Fugit and he was going to get a knockout, and that's exactly what he did. I think this is another good example of Ty Miller coming in here with, listen, this guy is another, he's not on the level of a Labozniani, but he clearly has some leg in the door some way because they're giving him another fight where he's going to get another first or another knockout early. And Ty Miller is, again, nothing really too crazy of a welterweight. He's another striker that can get knockouts. We have plenty of those right now, but he fits right in. So let's get him, souped up into the rankings real quick to make it a little more interesting. Billy Ray Goff probably gets finished in the first or second round is what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, Goff is coming off of two losses. I mean, a loss to Ramiz Brahimaj, that still tracks even with Ramiz having the, getting knocked out in his last fight or whatever. But the loss before that is really the one that speaks a little bit louder to me. He lost to Trey Waters. I mean, that's really not the kind of loss that you want to take. And then the wins that he has before that, he has one over Kinoshita, which is like, I mean, when was the last time you saw that dude fight? And then the dude before that, Smoltrisky. I mean, I don't even think he's in the organization anymore. Oh no, he's not. That was on the Contender Series, excuse me. So didn't make it to the organization. I mean, these are not credentials that speak very loudly as far as what we've seen out of him already. Miller doing a lot better, getting himself more established, hopefully throughout these. These are like, if the development is correct in how they're trying to grow prospects, then this is the exact fight that is one of those ones that when we are 3 years from now, you go back down the list and it's just one of a couple of names that you don't necessarily like instantly remember. And that should be what happens in this fight. So I am with you on the thought process here. Ty Miller, go out there and finish this fight. Billy Ray Goff is really going to need this win. He's going to be on a 3-fight losing streak if he doesn't get it. But sadly, I just don't know if he is of UFC caliber to get it.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. All right, then. So then, yeah, I guess we're both going with Miller on that one.
Yes.
Okay. Well, our featured prelim here. This is a fight, potentially. This is Steven Asplund, aka Concrete. He's going up against Guilherme Pat, a dude who he fights. He's a heavyweight striker who's a kind of in shape guy. Even though his last performance certainly didn't necessarily inspire. I mean, he had he got a majority decision loss to Thomas the Train. But a dude who I think I had more hope for him than what he gave us. I seem to be remembering getting very let down by Guilherme Pat and not thinking that, or thinking that there were a lot of holes in the game that really needed to like get fixed quickly if he wanted to hang at heavyweight. Steven Asplund, on the other hand, one of my favorite up and coming heavyweights, even in defeat. He did not win his last fight, but this dude comes out here to slam punches into people's heads at a rapid pace. I think Guilherme Pat's going to fall behind.
Well, I actually think Steven Asplund has a lot of hype behind him, and he's already lost. It's not necessarily as warranted as some other people's hype. He is a volume striker at heavyweight. We've already decided that if you can't knock Sean Sharif with 200 punches, I mean, you might not just have that touch at heavyweight. Steven Asplund also does have that tall man defense where he just kind of leans his head back and tries to evade shots. He gets touched a lot. I mean, if you saw his face in the last fight, I mean, he gets busted up very, very bad. Guilherme Pat may not have anything going for him, but I want to believe that he's just going to land some crazy bomb. Like, you never know what you can imagine something crazy. Steven Asplund, we ain't never thought of him being knocked down, knocked unconscious, nothing like that. But I think in the nature of the beast, he's going to come in here and think that he's ready to drop 200 strikes, and we're not even going to get 12 out of the two of them because we're at heavyweight. We might see a traditional heavyweight showdown right here.
That really was exactly the note that I was going to say just next. Is that the issue with this, if I'm recalling correctly, I mean, Peterson, of course, a wrestler, and I think that was really where Pat struggled, if I'm not mistaken, getting tied up, getting clinched up, getting the ground issues and stuff like that. He's not going to have to worry about any of that shit with Steven Asplund. This guy just comes out here to throw hands. It's pure boxing. I mean, he barely kicks, if I recall. I mean, it's not really much of a it's really hand striking almost primarily. So Guilherme Pat might have a little bit more well-roundedness to be able to make this more of his fight with all of those issues being in place for Asplund. But Asplund's a dude who is going to try until he can't try no more, which I appreciate. I just was not, I don't know. Guilherme Pat let me down. So, I mean, I like win me back with this fight. Fair enough. I'll ride with you after that. Show me something that I haven't seen from you before, and I'll be swayed. But I have seen good performances out of Steven Asplund. I'm riding with Concrete.
All right, let's see it. Titty Boy up next.
Let's go. All right, and you're going with Guilherme?
I'm going to take Guilherme.
All right, I like it. Oh my God, why is this fight happening? Why do they keep booking this guy? Dair Nurgashai
Both
is
of
back.
them.
I know, yeah. Well, Bruno Lopez, man. Oh my God. Okay, it's Dair Nurgashai versus Bruno Lopez. I mean, Dair Nurgashai is a dude who I have never been sold on. He gets wins, but it's questionable to me. Like, I mean, the competition that he's faced, that last dude that he faced, he faced the guy who is now signed to our dude, fucking Gilbert Burns' management, right? Isn't that Gilbert Burns' signee
I
that he signed?
think Rafael Tobias.
Yeah, isn't that it?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
He beat him.
He beat him exactly, and that and we and Tobias had a terrible fight in that fight. I mean, he was looking awful in that fight. So it's like a fight that makes you think that Dair Nurgashai is better than he is. This is a dude who, I mean, I don't even think it would be right to say fraud check with him because I don't think people are like riding super high with him. But like he has been getting wins, so like the check is just waiting to come. Bruno Lopez being the guy to do it. That's also a little bit of a stretch because Bruno Lopez does not inspire a great deal of confidence either, but can he win this fight? What do you think, Chase?
Well, I think that Dair Nurgashai has 2 submission losses in the organization already. Bruno Lopez has 5 submissions to his name, never been submitted. I'm gonna say Bruno Lopez hopefully is able to get a hold of him, get him to the mat, and then we do work towards a submission. But you got to remember that Nurgashai is he's a pretty slick kickboxer for a a light heavyweight dude. He can stay on the outside. He's still got that tick where he touches his face. But Bruno Lopez, I want to believe that he's gonna go ahead and get a sub here. I think this is possible.
I like it, and the reason that I like it the most is because Dair Nurgashai, aside from the tick that you're talking about, which is wild that he has that, where he blinds himself halfway every couple of seconds. Aside from that, he is also not fast. He is a slow guy. Now, I wouldn't say that Bruno Lopez is the fastest guy on the planet himself, but I do think that you throw out those big lumbering kicks. He's a guy who likes to kick to the body a lot. You throw out kicks like that, you're asking for one of those to get caught. That's an easy trip for Lopez if he can get that kick caught. There are opportunities like that that I think will present themselves throughout the course of this thing. Lopez just has to stay defensively sound through the early freshness. Once he starts wearing down a little bit, which Nurgashai definitely does do, I think that the sub could be likely as well. So I am going to go with Bruno Lopez.
Really? All right.
What are you doing?
I'm going with Bruno Lopez as well.
Okay, fair enough then. What were you so surprised? What you think they
I thought you were going to take Dair Nurgashai.
no, hell no. Dude, I cannot never ride with this guy, Dair Nurgashai.
All right, all right. I'm excited for us to get a win here. I think it'll be a submission.
All right. Next up, Louis Sutherland. He is fighting Henrique da Silva Lopez here. Henrique da Silva Lopez, guy, is he? No, I mean I know the name. Where is he off of? What do we know
I'm
about
trying
him?
to think. I don't know exactly. He is not from the Contender Series. There's just a lot of people named Henrique Silva or Lopez from Brazil.
I
That's
get,
just
yeah, I guess
unfortunate.
so. Yeah, he's wow. This is actually an interesting one with that. Louis Sutherland, of course, is 11-5 in the and I mean not in the organization, but 11-5 total, and he is fighting a dude who is coming into the UFC off of 2 losses.
At the age of 41.
Yeah, why? Why? Bro, heavyweight is so
Well,
goddamn cooked at all times.
listen, bro, they need a win for fucking Louis Sutherland. Like, I
Uh,
mean, this is a big ticket guy here. They can't have him going out on a loss. Now, genuinely, if he loses this, holy shit, bro.
Yeah,
Holy shit.
this would be quite a statement in the wrong direction for sure. Now, you do make a good point. I mean, even if it is a meme, I mean, or like a joke, it's like Sutherland is English. English fans are very very steadfast. They want their guys to win. So, I mean, giving him a can kind of makes a little bit of sense, I guess.
When I wrote out the list, hold on. There's
Oh,
a
did this change?
guy this change. Hold on. Let me see. Jose Montana.
Oh my
Jose
God,
Montana. Let me see if I can
is
spell it right.
is ESPN screwing us over here? I can get Tapology up here.
No, this is the new fight, but I'm
Oh, okay, I
wondering
got.
who they were gonna have him fight in the first place, you know. But apparently, within the last 2 hours or something, they found a different guy. So yes, it is no longer Jose Montana. It is now this Henrique da Silva Lopez guy. So very weird that they found this guy straight off the curb. I don't know. That's weird.
Another short notice heavyweight over here coming from
Off
out of
two
nowhere.
losses.
Yeah, off
That's
of 2
weird.
losses. This is I mean, this is as big a setup as our dude Leka had. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about locks of the card? I would suspect this could be one, but I mean, maybe Henrique da Silva Lopez has something that we don't know about, even with 2 losses. Who knows?
All right. So we're both taking Louis
I,
Sutherland.
how do you not? I mean, like with you when you know what that's the situation. I mean, I don't think that it's possible to not take Louis Sutherland.
100%.
Just making cricket noises. Was that what that was?
It's the crickets and around this place. Yes,
Oh,
crazy, isn't
wow.
it?
Well, that was wild that they were so noticeable there.
No, it
But
was just what you said. It just wasn't. It just didn't hit, bro. So the crickets had to let you know.
I'm sorry. I'm trying my best over here. Not my fault they made the matchup.
True.
All right. Well, geez, yeah. This card does take a bit of a dip here, doesn't it? Next up is Manuel Sosa versus Richie Miranda. Who are these people?
Manuel Souza, we definitely know this is the guy who
Yes.
knocked out Belogi Oki, and
Yes.
this guy is one of those guys that I've been wondering if he's on something, if he's on some PEDs, because he is in ridiculous shape. He always goes, never runs out of stamina, never been finished. 9 TKOs, 3 submissions. I know who I'm going with on this one because Manuel Sosa is actually one of the prospects that I'm kind of looking into. This guy is good, and
Yes. Yeah.
he's. I remember in the Contender Series and even in the last matchup, it looked even more prevalent. I was like, this dude really is like the Brazilian Terminator. Like he just fucking goes.
Yeah, and I was I did want to say don't get the impression that I didn't remember Manuel Sosa because
Yeah.
I
Oh
certainly
yes.
did. That was more the that was more the Jerry Seinfeld meme. But no, I mean going up against Richie Miranda, who is a guy out of LFA, coming off of a lot of wins over there. I mean he's 13-1. This guy was an LFA champion, three defenses on the record in LFA. So I mean he is a credentialed guy outside of the UFC. There are a lot. I've been seeing actually some conversations surrounding him. So there are people who are LFA fans that are riding with him pretty heavily. They're like, if you don't think that Richie Miranda, trust you got to, this and that. I mean, seeing what we've seen out of Manuel Sosa, like you said, he is muscled to the gills over here. Now, of course, physique does not equal power or technique. So you got to always take it with a grain of salt. But knowing it always goes back to the same adage. Knowing what we know about Manuel Sosa, what we have already seen from him, and what we know he is capable of. Do you mean to tell me that there's going to be a dude coming out of LFA, even as a champion, who's going to be able to come in here, no UFC experience, and be able to overcome that level of power?
Probably not, unfortunately, but it is what
Yeah,
it is. We'll find out.
yeah. So you're going with him?
Yes, I'm going. Yeah, Manuel Sosa all the way for sure.
Fair enough. Then I too will take Manuel Sosa. All right. Next up. Okay, this is an interesting one here. This is Miles Johns, and he is fighting Jesse Rosas. Of course, this is the brother Rosas. Am I correct?
Yo, yeah, absolutely. This is definitely the Rosas brother, and he's going against somebody who's a very safe opponent. I mean, this is I would say it's a handcrafted matchup just because Miles Johns is not going to be somebody that's going to like finish you per se. Like, he's going to go in there and have a very simple stand up performance that's not going to do anything too crazy, and we're going to get to see what Rosas brings to the table. If he's not able to enact any game plan against somebody who's really not doing much except standing on the outside and just kind of chilling, then we're going to know something. But I'm pretty sure the 10-7 already told us that the brother Roses is not that good. Roses, sorry.
Yeah, yes, he did say that. Also, Miles Johns is a guy who I felt in the last couple of fights has really been getting a bit of a raw deal, man. I think Miles Johns is a better fighter, certainly than this matchup. Absolutely that. And then also better fighter than he almost is allowing himself to be at times is what I say about Miles Johns. I think that there is a very technical fighter in Miles Johns, also a decent intensity to Miles Johns a lot of the time. I think that he is a guy who I don't know why things have gone the way that they have gone for him. I'm sure that you can, pick out things point by point if you want to chart the lineage as to how this has all gone for him and why he is where he is. But I just don't think that the record is reflective of what he is capable of in the big picture. And coming in against the brother of Raul, who's we've been seeing a lot of brothers making their debuts lately, and it hasn't been going great for him. If he is the worser of the two Rosas brothers, I think Miles Johns takes this fight pretty easily with the UFC experience that he has.
I am definitely taking Miles Johns on this one. I don't know anything about Broses, but we're going to find out.
I mean, come in here and show us what you got. As I had said before, if he goes out there and fights right now, he will at this current moment be more active than his brother. So
Yeah,
that's certainly a notch in the belt there.
absolutely.
All right, and starting this off, I heard this described on Twitter as the least skilled fight in the history of the UFC. I certainly don't think that is the truth, but you be the judge. It's Juliana Miller versus Ravina Oliveira. What are you thinking, Chase?
Well, the only thing that I know is that both of these girls have been finished by all the girls that I really, really like. Carly Judy's finished, Juliana. Actually, did she finish her? But either way, she beat Juliana Miller. And then Miss Oliveira lost to Chanel Dyer and Stephanie Lucy. Luciano. So all I know is that they are not very good when it comes to, holding their own in the division. They just let any prospect just walk right over them. But neither of these girls are prospects anymore. So how is that going to fare? The two veterans are kind of teeing it off with each other, and they're both coming off losses. They both have not very good records. It is the battle of who wants to stick around more. And let me give you a hint. It'll be Miller because she's a tough contestant.
Well, I mean, certainly that is a notch for sure. But regardless of being a tough contestant, she is a tough chick. Period. And I think that that is the big difference between her and Oliveira. Ravina Oliveira is not UFC caliber. Point blank. Period. I've seen enough of her. I know this to be true. She's almost deer in the headlights at times. Like she doesn't have the technicality. She doesn't have the skill base. You'd think that being Brazilian, she'd have a grappling base. She doesn't have that either. There's just nothing to her, unfortunately. What Miller has is a toughness and at least enough skill to be able to beat an opponent like Ravina. So, I mean, will I say that Miller's going to go on to much greater things thereafter? She's kind of proven at this point that she's not, I would say. But she is a she is a chick that was forged in the goddamn hood. She acts exactly like it. She brings that level of street smarts to the fight. And I think that in a fight like this is enough. If you remember in the Carly Judy's fight, she was having some moments of success. She was on her back at times. She was almost getting her taken to the ground. I think she might have even gotten her to the ground at one point in that fight, if I'm not mistaken. So she will go out there and bring a dog fight to this fight that Ravina is not capable of overcoming. That's the unfortunate truth of Ravina Oliveira. Like, I just don't see her being in this organization for much longer.
Oliveira may be Brazilian, but she's been submitted twice and only has one to her name. Juliana Miller has three submissions, never been subbed. I think it would be a very big win to come back and submit the Brazilian. So I'm going to go with Juliana Miller by submission for sure.
I'm going to go with Juliana Miller. By submission actually might be okay. Again, Ravina, like, because I was going to say this could be like one of those kind of grapple heavy or wrestle heavy rather, like, on the feet, clinching up on the cage, just sort of making it kind of a slower paced fight, and making it kind of drawn out and not as exciting. But Ravina will get herself into positions to be finished. So yeah, Miller by sub sounds okay to me. I'll go with it. Tentatively. I mean, it's either that or it's going to be Miller by one-sided unanimous decision.
There we go. All right, I like it. I'm excited to see how this one pans out. Of course, we got another Apex card coming up for us, and we normally look at them, and I know a lot of people have a lot of things to say about some of the cards we have, but it's an Apex card, so it's definitely going to deliver. So I'm just very excited. And Thinker, what are you thinking? After we read it all over, what's going on?
I mean, I'm excited for it too. I've always said that the ones that are the weakest on paper can sometimes be the absolute most exciting cards of the year. So hopefully this turns out to be one of those. We will find out together on our individual watch alongs. Of course, you can hang out with me at youtube.com/@Yama Show for that. And Chase, I know you can tell them where they can find you.
YouTube.com/@CP Smalls is where you guys can find me watching UFC, of course, and that's on Saturdays, and then on Friday mornings, One Championship. So be there.
Absolutely do be there. And you can find me on YouTube at that, what I already said. You can find me on Twitch. Twitch? What am I talking about? You can find me on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, and now also, hopefully for the foreseeable future, but we'll see, on TikTok at Yama Show, on all of those. You can find me on all those social medias. I'm at Yama Show everywhere. Follow your boy on social media. Of course, new clips are coming out all the time, thanks to our good friend Carlos, who is on top of that. So follow me over there. You'll see clips of me. You'll see clips of Chase. It's always a good time. And we got much more coming your way in the near future on both channels. Yamashow.com for all of your merchandise needs. Of course, get yourself a shirt, get yourself a hat, get yourself some last week's fights merchandise in addition to Yama stuff. And we will see you for this card and everything else in the near future. So thank you to everybody who's been hanging out with us for this podcast. We appreciate all of you guys making this another great Monday. Have a great rest of your night, a great rest of your week. And as always, fight on.